Hey, welcome back. She got ISEKAI'D, and the first thing she did wasn't fight monsters. She bought a mountain. All she wanted was a quiet life in another world, but without even realizing it, that mountain started becoming insanely powerful. And that's where everything changes. The story begins. Satsuki Mochizuki stares at her unusual companion, her eyes wide with fear. The huge creature calls the girl by name and offers to buy a mountain. Shocked, Satsuki asks again in disbelief. The fox is even willing to make a special offer. The entire mountain for only 1 million. The fox asks if the girl is buying. Satsuki nervously recoils. She asks him to wait a moment. The girl opens her eyes wide. She is lying in her sleeping bag. Satsuki looks up and sees the ceiling of the tent. She decides that it was all just a dream. Satsuki stretches and leaves the tent. She yawns widely and notices that it is already morning. The girl looks puzzled at the cloud of steam escaping from her mouth. She realizes that even though it's March, it's still quite cold. Satsuki looks around contentedly. This is her first solo hike. There were very serious reasons for this trip to the mountains. At work, Satsuki was assigned to correct the mistakes of a new employee who made them constantly. Her boss didn't care that the girl had her own tasks to do. On top of that, Satsuki's boyfriend of 5 years decided to break up with her. He apologized with a smile and simply said that he had fallen in love with someone else. Satsuki admits that going to the mountains is an opportunity for her to escape reality. Taking a deep breath, the girl screams with all her might to express everything that has been bothering her. She advises her boss to do the work himself instead of burdening his employees with more and more tasks. And the guy who decided to simply say that he had found someone else? He even dares to consult with Satsuki about his relationship with a married woman. The girl catches her breath. She decides to calm down and just enjoy the moment, since she managed to get out into nature and fresh air. Satsuki lays out the cooking utensils on the table. She pours herself a cup, and she toasts the filling. Then she puts in the bread and places it in the sandwich maker. Finally, Satsuki remembers to turn on the stove. Scratching the back of her head, she admits that everything looked much easier in the video than it does in real life. She leans back in her chair, deciding to sit quietly while the food is cooking. Satsuki smiles, looks at the appliance. She gasps with delight. She enjoys the sight of the finished dish, already transferred to a plate. The girl picks up the first half. She notes that the sandwich is slightly burnt, but still looks delicious. Wishing herself bon appetit, Satsuki takes a bite. She moans with pleasure. The girl notices that the taste is simply extraordinary. It seems like the most ordinary bread, but it's so delicious. She plans to make this breakfast at home. Soon, only crumbs remain on the plate. Satsuki adds milk to her coffee. With a sigh, the girl admits that she is satisfied. She looks at the mountain, at the birds circling near the summit. With a slight smile, Satsuki realizes that hiking is incredibly cool. The girl approaches the house where the registrar is located. She says she is going to check out. The owner agrees, and with a smile, he asks how she enjoyed her vacation in the mountains. Satsuki sincerely replies that she enjoyed it very much. She adds that living surrounded by nature is simply wonderful. The man is pleased with her answer. He promises to show her an even more beautiful place next time. The girl says she will look forward to it. Although going on a hike was a spontaneous decision, the trip to the mountains not only did not disappoint, but also turned out to be quite enjoyable. Of course, it was difficult to prepare for the trip with a busy work schedule, but it was worth it. For some reason, Satsuki wants to return to the mountains again and again. After returning home from work, she turned on the light. The girl climbs on her bed and turns on the video. Today she is watching how to cook curry without water while hiking. The girl is surprised that such a thing is possible. Satsuki decides that next time she will prepare better and take more equipment with her. Then the girl is interrupted by an incoming call. She looks to see who it is and becomes sad. It's her mother calling. The girl looks at the phone gloomily. She doesn't understand why her mother decided to call her. Satsuki can't decide whether to answer the call or not. It hasn't even been a year since her father died. Her mother remarried. Satsuki was still in high school at the time. She doesn't really like her mother. Her new husband had a daughter, Kokoa, who was about 10 years younger than the main character. Her mother tried her best to please Satsuki's stepfather, and therefore seemed to adore only Kokoa. Her own daughter, on the other hand, was largely ignored. So Satsuki lost her home and left her family as soon as she finished school. The girl borrowed money from her paternal grandparents to go to university. She lived with them while she was studying. After graduating from university, Satsuki got a job and moved out. The girl keeps looking at her phone. Her mother hasn't called her once since the day Satsuki left home. The girl has a bad feeling. Still, Satsuki answers the call. Her mother immediately asks if she is free on Saturday. It turns out that Kokoa and her friends are going to the city where Satsuki lives, and her mother wants her to stay overnight at the main character's place. The girl is shocked by the request and thinks to herself irritably that it's all Cocoa's fault again. Satsuki refuses out loud, saying that she will be at work all day. Her mother asks what is so important that she has to do there and advises her to just take the day off. The girl flatly refuses. She hangs up without listening to her mother's words. Satsuki collapses onto her pillow and gets angry. She is infuriated that all conversations come down to Cocoa. She angrily shouts that she is not a servant for the family. Satsuki cries, burying her face in the pillow. Finally, she lifts her head, tears in her eyes. The girl decides that it's better to go hiking again. Since then, Satsuki has been doing just that. Something unpleasant happens. Her mother calls again. Her boss is overloading her with other people's work. Her boyfriend asks her to get back together, and the girl goes to the mountains. Hiking allows her to hide from her problems and catch her breath. Satsuki researches possible destinations on her laptop. She likes one of the campsites. The girl notices that she has started going hiking every weekend. However, the trips are quite expensive. She still chooses a place to go next time. Then Satsuki remembers the fox's offer to buy a mountain. She freezes in confusion, and then she laughs. The girl realizes that now, without hesitation, she would agree to the purchase. Someone calls her from behind the door, informing her that there is a package for Satsuki. The girl hurriedly goes to pick it up. She tries to remember if she ordered anything. Upon receiving the package, Satsuki realizes that it is from her grandparents. Opening the box, she sees vegetables. She is happy about the package because vegetables have become more expensive lately. Satsuki thinks about what to cook. She decides to make pot au feu. She stews the vegetables. Previously, the girl only cooked simple dishes that could be made while camping. She tastes the food and enjoys the taste. Satsuki thanks her grandparents, thinking that she is very happy. But then her elderly relatives died. The girl sadly remembers their funerals. It was the beginning of summer, but suddenly a heat wave struck. Her grandparents lost consciousness while working in the fields. Satsuki sadly lowers her head. Suddenly, someone calls out to the girl. She looks up in confusion and sees her aunt, who smiles warmly at Satsuki. She apologizes for distracting the girl from her work. Satsuki hastily replies that everything is fine and asks what her aunt wanted to talk about. The woman explains that she wanted to give Satsuki something and hands her a notebook and a card. The girl asks in confusion what it is. The aunt reminds her that Satsuki had been paying back her grandparents for her education and explains that they had been saving the money. The girl looks at the notes. She realizes that it is a large sum of money. She tries to refuse, noting with concern that it is a lot. Her aunt replies that Satsuki should take the money without hesitation. Things are already difficult for the girl. Satsuki hugs the notebook to her chest. She cries and thanks her aunt. Her aunt hugs her tightly. It is already dark. Satsuki falls wearily onto the bed and sighs. Her phone explodes with notifications again, and she glances at it. Her boss demands that she return to work immediately, regardless of her bereavement leave. Her boyfriend asks her out again. Her mother is upset that Satsuki isn't answering her phone and demands that Coco will live with her since she will be studying in this city. The girl throws her phone away and bursts into tears. She is tormented by these endless messages. Even now, when she is already having a hard time, all these people continue to write her all kinds of nonsense. Satsuki finds it simply disgusting. Soon, the girl is greeted by mountains. She pulls up to the registrar's house. Satsuki gets out of the car. She remarks aloud that she has gone hiking again. However, the girl decides that she cannot be sad forever. If Satsuki had spent even one more minute at home, she might have gone crazy. She notices a familiar man in the house, and she realizes that she has come to the same place as the first time. Satsuki hopes that she will no longer have unusual dreams. The girl approaches the house and calls out to the owner. He looks up from his newspaper and looks at Satsuki. She explains that she has booked a room and introduces herself. The man remembers and starts to say something, but suddenly freezes, as if he has seen something. Satsuki tries to get the owner's attention, even waving her hand in front of his face, but to no avail. Then he suddenly comes to his senses and happily announces that they have been waiting for her. Satsuki says that he scared her, but the man repeats that they have been eagerly awaiting her. She laughs awkwardly, not understanding what is going on. The owner asks permission to show her a special place and invites her to follow him. He says he is going somewhere deep inside the house and will be back shortly. Satsuki asks again, puzzled. Soon, the girl is following the man. She wonders what kind of special place it is. Here she notices something surprising. The owner of the house is driving into a tunnel. Satsuki enthusiastically remarks that this is really unusual. She had no idea there was a tunnel in this place. The girl wonders what awaits her. Images of luxury glamping are already forming in her mind. She imagines herself stretching out in a deck chair with a glass in her hand, while a man serves her a sumptuous dinner. The light at the end of the tunnel is already visible. Satsuki smiles in anticipation. The girl drives out and opens her mouth in confusion. She is greeted by a dense forest. She realizes with slight disappointment that it is just a mountain and clearly abandoned at that. Satsuki stops the car and gets out of it. She notices that there is still a place to camp here, but it looks more like a survival space than a campsite. However, there is nothing else here. Satsuki timidly calls out to the owner of the house and asks if they have arrived at the right place. He replies with a broad smile that everything is correct. Spreading his arms, he asks if the girl likes the mountain and if she wants to buy it. Satsuki opens her mouth in surprise. The man asks in confusion if she has forgotten their conversation, since they had already discussed it. He says his name is Inari Hisashi and that he is in charge of managing this place. The man hands Satsuki a card. She reads it, confused. She doesn't recognize the name. She asks, embarrassed, what he is talking about. But suddenly, instead of the man, she sees the fox from her dream. Satsuki looks at it in amazement, and Inari asks if she remembers now. Satsuki cries out and recognizes the fox from her dream, who offered to buy the mountain. The fox raises his paw and confirms that this is so. The fox asks if she is buying the mountain, since she has come here again for a reason. Inari suggests signing the contract right now. Satsuki tries to say something. The fox reminds her that he promised a special offer, and waves his paw. Something falls to the ground, and the girl turns around in shock. Now there is a bathhouse and a toilet on the ground, as Inari kindly explains. Satsuki stands there with her mouth open and her eyes wide. The fox asks again if the girl is ready to buy the mountain. Inari puts his paw on her shoulder and asks why she has suddenly fallen silent. Satsuki decides that it's just a dream, which is what Inari says. The girl says that she is getting up and that it's time for the fox to leave. Inari doesn't understand what she means. Satsuki excitedly points her finger at the toilet and says that things don't just appear out of thin air. She is sure that it's all a dream, considering that the person has turned into a huge talking fox. Inari replies that it may be unusual for her world. The girl asks again. The fox explains that the mountain is in another world, as humans would say. Satsuki still doesn't understand. Inari says that the laws here are different from those in the girl's world, so it is more than possible for objects to appear out of thin air. Satsuki decides that she died in an accident. The fox reminds her that she came here herself. Moreover, the girl can return to her world at any moment by simply driving through the tunnel. However, only Satsuki can do this. The girl does not understand what kind of cheating this is. Inari asks if she is buying the mountain or not. After hesitating, Satsuki uncertainly refuses. She adds that she is simply shocked by all this news. The fox thoughtfully says that he understands her confusion. The main character wonders why Inari is trying to sell the mountain to her specifically. The fox ponders the answer, but then he explains that the mountain currently has no owner. Satsuki has probably already noticed how everything here has fallen into disrepair. And if things continue in this vein, the mountain will eventually become unusable. Therefore, it is necessary to find an owner urgently. Inari asks the girl to become the mistress of this place, settle here, and bring it back to life. The fox adds that he is sure that Satsuki can handle this task. The girl remains silent, confused. Inari bows his head, saying that he probably rushed things. He turns back into a human and says he will visit Satsuki again when she has had a chance to rest and ask her what she has decided. Inari wishes her a good time in the mountains and leaves. After lighting a fire, Satsuki sits down on a chair. She doesn't know what to think. To be honest, she is not at all sure that she wants to return to her world. Her job isn't that important to Satsuki because she only does it for the money. Moreover, the girl doesn't have to move here permanently. If anything, she just needs to cross the tunnel, and she will be back in her own world. Satsuki looks thoughtfully at the exit. The main character bitterly thinks that her grandparents are no longer waiting for her anyway. She has no normal family, no friends, and no normal job. Satsuki has no particular desires either. However, the girl has no idea what life will be like in another world. And, on the one hand, this is very frightening. But on the other hand, it fills her with excitement and anticipation. Night has already fallen, and Satsuki admires the stars. The next day, Inari returns as promised. He greets Satsuki and asks what she has decided. The girl gets up from her seat and approaches Inari. She closes her eyes for a second. The main character responds with a beaming smile. A strong wind sweeps across the land, blowing leaves off the trees. The mountain is flooded with light. Inari joyfully says that this exceeds all his expectations. The girl herself is enveloped in bright light. All the inhabitants of the mountain watch what is happening. The horned squirrel, the dragons, the wolf cubs, and even the flowers seemed to have turned their blossoms. And so Satsuki Mochizuki became the owner of a mountain in another world. After making the purchase, life flew by much faster. Her mother and ex-boyfriend wrote to her constantly, and in the end, the girl decided to simply cut off all contact with them. Satsuki also resolved the issue with her boss. She simply handed him her resignation letter. No matter how indignant he was, the girl had already made her choice. As Satsuki discovered from Inari's contract, she would be paid 230,000 yen per month for managing the mountain. Now, to her great joy, Satsuki no longer had to worry about her livelihood. With a smile on her face, the girl rides toward her new life. She is confident that she is now simply invincible. Satsuki approaches the tunnel in high spirits. She is greeted by a mountain landscape. Getting out of the car, Satsuki hands Inari the signed contract. He thanks her. Beaming, he announces that from now on, the mountain belongs to the main character. Inari adds that Satsuki should use the campsite address as her new mailing address. She replies that she understands. To herself, she thinks that this all seems like a normal move rather than a move to another world. Inari hands Satsuki a container. Inside are some boar and deer meat. Inari explains that it's from a hunter he knows and suggests she accept the gift in honor of buying the mountain. Inari also adds rice crackers so that the girl can have a snack when she gets hungry. Satsuki gratefully thanks him and accepts the food. Inari warns her that everything is vacuum-packed, but also advises her not to delay eating the food. The girl thanks him warmly again. However, the surprises do not end there. To Satsuki's surprise, Inari also hands her a tablet. The girl asks what the gadget is for. The man says that she will use it to control the mountain. Noticing Satsuki's confusion, Inari promises to explain everything. He shows the girl the interface of the Interworld tablet. The construction app allows you to build anything you want, from a hut to a castle. This requires KP and materials. The storage app allows you to store any items, even very heavy ones. You can upgrade with KP. The clearing and cutting app helps you develop the area and also requires KP. The question mark icon means that new programs may appear in the future. Inari also explains that KP are points that can be earned for developing the mountain. This includes tasks such as mowing grass, clearing branches, building roads, and setting up water sources. KP allow you to use apps and activate new features. Inari recommends actively accumulating points. Summing up, he repeats that if you take care of the mountain, you can earn KP. Accordingly, the better the girl develops her new property, the more opportunities she will have and the more comfortable her life will be. Inari finishes his explanation and hands Satsuki the tablet. He asks if everything is clear to her now. To his confusion, she hesitates slightly. He suggests that he should stop telling her about all kinds of games, even though they are very exciting, and finally explain how to control the mountain. Inari smiles and replies that he has already told her about this. He adds that he deliberately explained everything using games as examples and admits that it is difficult to believe what is happening. The man decides to demonstrate everything in practice. Inari takes out his tablet. He shows the screen to Satsuki. He shows a hut and explains that it takes 20 logs and 50 KP to build it. The man advises the girl to watch carefully. First, he clicks clear and uses KP to cut down the trees. To her amazement, Satsuki sees that only stumps remain where the trees once stood. Inari sends the trunks to the storage. The girl, her mouth agape, realizes that the trees have disappeared. Now the man selects the Builder app and uses KP and logs. A finished hut appears right in front of them. Satsuki's jaw drops. Inari calmly says that this is how it works. He adds that the girl will be able to test all the new features and apps that will appear later on her own. Inari asks if the main character understands everything now. Satsuki asks confusedly if she will really be able to do the same things. He hastens to assure her that the main character will indeed be able to create all this with the help of a tablet. The girl is amazed by this new world. Now she will be able to build anything she wants without any special knowledge or skills. Satsuki breaks into a smile when she sees a log cabin on the list. The main character has always dreamed of such a thing. Living in a beautiful log cabin, enjoying nature and the mountains. What could be better? The requirements are high, of course. 1,500 KP and 80 logs. However, Satsuki is confident that since a 20-log cabin appeared in an instant, she can do it. The girl joyfully raises her fist in the air. She is ready to move towards her dream. Inari asks in surprise. He notes that it is not possible to build a log house at this time. The main character asks in horror why. The man readily replies that it's all because of Satsuki's storage. While it is at the initial level, it cannot hold any large objects, including logs. At level 1 of storage, Its size is only 1 cubic meter. Inari advises the girl to start by accumulating points, exploring the territory, and leveling up. He points to a water source on the map and suggests building a road to it. With a swing of her scythe, another bunch of grass falls. Satsuki, crouching down, picks up the cut plants. She is breathing heavily and is already covered in sweat. The sun, hanging directly above her, is mercilessly baking down. The girl looks around, and she realizes with a sigh that she has only cleared a tiny area so far. The main character admits that this is really hard work. She stands up and decides to take a break. Satsuki collapses wearily into a chair and realizes that the task is more difficult than it seemed at first glance. She picks up her tablet and decides to see how many KP she has earned. The main character thinks she has earned about 100 points. However, the line indicates 6 KP. The girl is shocked that the grass earned so few points in 3 hours of mowing. She is horrified to realize how long it will take to build a log house at this rate. Satsuki shouts that she could have earned more, and she calls Inari greedy. The main character decides to visit the bathhouse. She neatly folds her clothes and climbs into the bath. Satsuki gasps with pleasure as she lies down in the water. She believes that there is nothing better than a bath after a tiring day at work. The girl thought she would have to heat the bath herself, but fortunately, there was hot water here. Satsuki enjoys washing herself and suddenly remembers that the source is still far away. Folding her arms across her chest, she wonders where the hot water came from. After a moment of silence, the main character decides that it must be because this is a different world. Hot water is flowing, and that's wonderful. Soon, Satsuki is grilling meat on the grill. She looks at the food with enthusiasm. The main character tries game for the first time and wonders what it tastes like. Satsuki picks up a small piece of meat with chopsticks. She wishes herself bon appetit. She tastes the dish and moans with pleasure. The girl finds it very tasty. She finds that the fat on the boar meat is slightly sweet, but the smell is not strong at all. The venison, on the other hand, is not fatty at all and is pleasant to chew. Satsuki decides to be sure to thank Inari when she sees him. She eats another bite and opens a can of drink. Then she continues her meal. Night falls. Satsuki looks up, admiring the stars. She looks back at the buildings, smiling. The main character realizes that it is still incredible, that she is now in another world. The girl thinks that a lot of strange things are happening here. A tunnel, a talking fox who stole a mountain, a tablet that builds buildings in a second. Although life in this place will most likely not be easy. But right now, Satsuki is truly happy. A snake watches the girl from above, sticking out its forked tongue. Satsuki is wondering what lives on the mountain in this world. The main character descends from a mountain to go shopping. Soon she's walking through the store along the shelves. The girl decides that since she can return to her native world, she should take full advantage of it. Inari told Satsuki that she would need a lot of points to develop the mountain, but the girl only received 6 KP for mowing the grass. Since a log house costs as much as 1,500 points, manual labor is definitely not the best way to earn money. Satsuki finds what she was looking for. A lawn mower is on display in the store. Back at home, the main character puzzledly assembles the tool, constantly referring to the lengthy instructions. Satsuki charges the battery on the table from a solar panel. After rereading the instructions, the girl tentatively decides that the lawn mower still needs to be charged. The main character is about to carry her purchases to the hut. She takes the items out of the trunk, and smiling, she realizes that she has gone a little overboard. Satsuki bought an electric saw, a portable battery, and a whole bunch of different tools. But now the girl will be able to build anything she can think of. Now, she can even hang shelves in the house. The main character eagerly wants the lawnmower to charge quickly. Glancing at the table, Satsuki freezes in surprise. To her surprise, the battery is already fully charged, even though only about 5 minutes have passed. The girl once again realizes that the other world is cool. The grass flies away quickly. Satsuki admires the speed and realizes that manual labor cannot compare to a lawnmower. The main character decides to take advantage of the clearing and make a road. Satsuki thinks happily that she will quickly earn points at this speed. Time flies by unnoticed. The girl mows. She eats. She takes a break. She takes a bath. She mows again and goes to bed. Looking at the map, Satsuki realizes that she is not far from the source. She decides that if she keeps working at the same pace, she'll be there the next day. Then a noise behind her makes her turn around. The main character looks anxiously at the bushes, not knowing what is hiding behind them. She just hopes it's not some kind of animal. Satsuki approaches and peeks behind the bushes. 2 puppies are playing there. The main character is touched and smiles. The puppies notice her, and they quickly run away. They hide in the bushes and peek out from there. Satsuki crouches down and gently calls to the puppies. They look at each other, and one of them timidly approaches her. The puppy sniffs the main character's outstretched palm and licks it. The girl smiles happily. Suddenly, the puppy barks loudly. It rushes to the second puppy, and together they disappear into the bushes. Satsuki laughs and hopes that they will return. It gets dark, and the stars shine in the sky again. The main character sits in a chair and eats a cracker. She checks how many points she has and is pleased to note that she has earned 482 KP in just a few days. Satsuki looks at the available upgrades. She notices that expanding the storage costs 300 points, and she raises her level. Now, instead of 1 cubic meter, she has access to 3. The main character realizes that one more level, and she will be able to store logs, just like Inari. She yawns and notices that although she thought it would take a lot of time, now a log house is just around the corner. Satsuki looks thoughtfully at the ledge. She didn't think the source would be at the top. Looking around, the girl realizes that she won't be able to climb up there. She wonders if there is any other way. Then the main character remembers about clearing. She finds that in addition to cutting down trees, there is also embankment, which can be used to create a slope. Satsuki decides to try using the embankment and cutting. To her surprise, the hill does indeed increase slightly. Then the main character makes ledges using the cut command, and she lays out the resulting steps with stones from the storage. Satsuki looks up from her tablet and admires the result. She climbs the steps, realizing that she has built a real staircase. Once at the top, the main character gasps. The source is just water flowing out of a small crack in the rock. The girl did not expect this, but at least the liquid is crystal clear. Satsuki thought the spring would be a small pond or something similar. Then she remembers that, according to Inari, this water is drinkable. The girl puts her palms together, and she puts them under the icy stream. After collecting the water, she drinks it. The main character notices that the taste is simply extraordinary, especially after hard work. Satsuki does not see the huge shadow on the wall. Right behind the girl is a snake that has been watching her. The main character, unaware of anything, is going to return to the spring later with the canisters. Then Satsuki turns around and finally sees the reptile. It hisses and the girl recoils. She does not understand what this huge snake is and why it is like that. The reptile does not wait and, opening its mouth wide, prepares to attack. Satsuki covers herself with her hands, but the bite does not follow. Opening her eyes, the girl sees those same puppies. One jumps on the snake's head and clings to its scales, biting through them. The second hangs on the reptile's neck. The snake swings its body, and the puppy flies to the side. The other, noticing how its companion fell, also bites the neck. The snake slithers away. The puppy barks angrily and is about to chase after it. Satsuki yells at it not to chase the reptile. The girl wants to help the injured puppy and picks it up. She doesn't know what to do and begs the dog not to die. The main character decides to quickly take the puppy to the camp. She calls the second puppy to come with her. The puppy barks and rushes after her. Once at the camp, the puppy regains consciousness. Satsuki is happy that it is alive and well, and the dogs fawn over her. She pets them and thanks them for their help. She tickles the puppy that hit her, noting that it is very strong. Then the dog pricks up its ears and turns around. Satsuki asks what's wrong. The puppy tugs at the girl's clothes. The girl realizes that she must follow the dogs. She wonders where the puppies are leading her. Here, in a clearing, Satsuki sees 2 large dogs, one of which is holding a snake's body in its teeth. The main character is terrified, not understanding what is happening. Then she notices that the puppies are running up to her happily. They run up to the dogs and cuddle up to them. The girl realizes that they are one family. She recoils in fear from the huge snake, but she realizes that the reptile is dead. The dog lays the corpse in front of Satsuki. The main character thinks that the animal is giving the body to her and nervously thanks the dogs. One of them seems to nod, and the animals, along with the puppies, turn toward the forest. Satsuki waves goodbye. She looks at the snake's body again. The girl thinks that everything in this world is strange and wonders why everything here is so huge. Satsuki has been living on the mountain for several months now. Suddenly, she hears the sound of paws. She turns around. The main character smiles happily, realizing that the puppies have returned. They jump on the girl, knocking her off her feet. One of the puppies licks Satsuki's face. She pats the puppies on the head, noticing how energetic they are. The main character is happy that she has made her first friends in this world. Opening the container, Satsuki looks at the food, realizing that it is difficult to store fresh food, and even a refrigerator has its limits. The puppies enthusiastically examine the food on display. The girl sees on her tablet that the vegetables in the storage have also gone bad. Then she notices something new. Now, with the help of clearing, it is possible to create a vegetable garden. She remembers that Inari mentioned the appearance of new features. The main character reaches for the icon, deciding that it's time to take up farming. Satsuki chooses a suitable place and drives away the curious puppies. The girl sees that both beds and seedlings require KP costs. She now has a fairly wide range of crops to plant: potatoes, onions, carrots, corn, and tomatoes. The main character is drawn to root vegetables, wondering what lies behind the name: sweet potatoes or regular potatoes. There are also many varieties of legumes. She decides that if you don't plant something, you won't know. Inari believed that the main thing was for the vegetable to be edible, but Satsuki finds this approach too simplistic. However, she decides to give it a try. The main character selects a plot and creates beds. 3 rows fit into 10 meters. Now the girl chooses seedlings, deciding to plant a different crop in each bed. Satsuki spends points and confirms her decision. Right in front of her and the puppies, beds appear with sprouts already visible. Pulling away from the tablet, the main character happily notes that the garden is ready. Although it seems too easy to her, because her grandfather had to work much harder, she thinks again, albeit without much emotion, that the other world is simply incredible. Now Satsuki just has to water her plants. To do this, she needs to fetch water from a spring. Here she notices something surprising: what is standing in the puddle. The main character looks down at her feet in confusion, not understanding where the water suddenly came from. She hurriedly drives the puppies away, thinking that the beds are about to fall apart. But suddenly, the puddle transforms into a pond, neatly fenced in with stones. One of the puppies looks happily at the water. Satsuki kneels down, not understanding what is happening and why a water source has suddenly appeared in this place. This is, of course, very convenient, but it is too suspicious that everything is working out so well. This frightens the main character. She is sure that someone is watching her. However, the girl decides that since the pond has appeared, she will use it. Satsuki scoops up some water and begins to water the plants. She sings a song to cheer up the sprouts. The puppies happily jump around at the girl's feet. And so night falls. The next morning, the main character peeks out of the tent, amazed by the sight before her. Rushing outside, she stares in shock at the plants that have already grown. Satsuki doesn't understand what miracle has happened. She is sure that this is simply abnormal. Still in her pajamas, the girl pulls one of the plants out of the ground. She sees ripe potatoes. Kneeling on the ground, the main character realizes that now she will easily be able to provide herself with fresh vegetables, regardless of the season. She smiles, figuring out what to do next. Satsuki heads to Inari. He greets her warmly, asking what brought her to him. The main character asks if he knows where she can buy chickens. He asks her to clarify. Satsuki explains that she wants to raise poultry. She adds that if it's a matter of money, she is willing to pay. Inari replies that it's not about that. He reminds her that creatures from her world cannot enter another. The main character sighs disappointedly, admitting that she had completely forgotten about that. She understands that only representatives of the local fauna can be kept as pets. Inari thinks for a moment. Then he asks for some time to think. He promises to think of something. Satsuki thanks him warmly. Over a cup of tea, Inari asks how the main character is doing on the mountain. The girl takes a bite of a cracker and replies that everything is fine, although there are difficulties too. She says that with the help of clearing, she managed to make a vegetable garden. The man praises her, noting that Satsuki is quickly earning points. The girl adds that the vegetable garden app itself is simply a miracle. She says happily that as soon as you plant something, you can harvest it in the morning. Surprised, Inari spits out his tea. Wiping his mouth, he informs her that there is no such function and that vegetables usually do not ripen that quickly. Satsuki doesn't understand what is happening then. Inari notes that nature spirits are most likely involved. The girl asks again, alarmed. Inari explains that in another world, absolutely everything in nature, water, wind, light, earth, exists thanks to spirits. If they are pleased, the soil will become fertile. But if they are angered, disaster will strike. Inari adds that the spirits seem to have accepted Satsuki. The girl thinks for a moment. She asks if magic exists in this world. The man smiles and replies that it does. The main character exclaims joyfully that it's cool. Inari notes that the tablet itself is essentially magic, and Satsuki agrees with him. They say goodbye, and Inari promises to contact the girl if he succeeds with the chickens. The main character thanks Inari again. She gets into her car and adds that she is counting on him. Satsuki harvests the crops, struggling to pull the tops out of the ground. After filling a box, she notices that the puppies are also trying to pull vegetables out of the soil. Soon she has several containers full. The main character digs small lanterns out of the ground. When she is done, she looks with satisfaction at the garden lights that have already come on. The girl had been planning to install the lanterns for a long time. After all, it is very dark at night in this world, and this way it will be safer and more comfortable. A car pulls up on the road, and Satsuki realizes that Inari has arrived. They greet each other, and the main character asks what brought the man here. He opens the trunk and shows her the chickens. The girl is surprised that he managed to get the birds so quickly. She apologizes awkwardly, saying that she doesn't have any cash on her right now. The man smiles and says that he doesn't need money. It's a gift for Satsuki's efforts. Inari asks where the main character is going to keep the chickens. She hurriedly reaches for her tablet, asking the man to wait a moment. Inari remarks that he did not expect the main character to achieve such impressive results in such a short time. Satsuki, standing with her back to him, selects a chicken coop on her tablet and asks him to repeat himself. Inari, still smiling broadly. He says that the girl has exceeded all his expectations. He squints, thinking that the main character still can't see everything. Inari notices that Satsuki seems to be in a glowing sphere with spirits flying around her. They talk among themselves, gathering the power of light for their beloved mistress, as they call the main character, so that the girl can use it right away. The spirits will make the water even tastier by adding magic. The spirits of earth, light, and water help the crops to ripen. Inari notices that Satsuki has managed to gather so many spirits in such a short time, and that they clearly have an effect on the girl. He looks at the lantern, although it is the most ordinary one, but it serves as a barrier. Although Inari expected something like this, he could not even imagine it on such a scale. Inari looks at the main character, surrounded by all kinds of spirits. Now he understands why Lord Ignos was so interested in Satsuki. Here, the main character calls out to the man, informing him that the chicken coop is ready, although she is unaware of the spirits. But there are just so many of them here. Holding up the box with the birds, Inari wonders aloud if Satsuki can even see what is in front of her. She looks at him in confusion. Satsuki has been living on a mountain in another world for several months now. Summer is ending, and autumn is already beginning to be felt. All this time, the main character has been tirelessly cultivating the land, accumulating points and increasing the level of the storage and cutting down trees. But her efforts have been rewarded. The girl has finally managed to build a log house. With a joyful cry, accompanied by a pair of puppies, Satsuki rushes inside. As it turned out, the house had both a bath and a toilet. As soon as the girl opened the door to the room and saw the bed, she immediately jumped on it. She immediately jumped onto it. The puppies happily ran after Satsuki. The main character sprawled out on the bed with pleasure, noting that she had done a great job. Meanwhile, Inari is talking to Ignos at his campsite. He asks how Satsuki is doing. The man replies that everything is going well with, as, indeed, one would expect from a former saint. He adds that the main character exceeds all expectations. His interlocutor is pleased. Ignos notes that the wider Satsuki's power extends, the safer the sacred beasts and spirits will be in larger areas. Inari asks if Ignos is going to tell the girl that she is a former saint. He remarks that there is no need for that. It is better for Satsuki to simply enjoy her life on the mountain. Inari reminds him that in the real world, the main character has suffered a lot from her relationships with people. Ignos sighs. He says that it is probably his fault. Inari remarks that his companion's blessing in that world has become a curse. Ignos admits that for some reason, everything there is turned upside down. However, he immediately adds that everything is fine in the world of the mountain because he himself created it. Inari imagines a smug smile on his interlocutor's face. Ignos remembers the tablet and remarks that the people of Inari's world have managed to come up with an interesting object. The man, looking at the newspaper, replies that he, like other representatives of the human race, is extremely inventive. Ignos agrees, noting that although they are both human, they are still very different. Inari calls out to his companion, but suddenly, he notices a car pulling up. He realizes it is Satsuki. His companion disappears in an instant, reminding him that everything is now up to Inari. The main character gets out of the car and greets the man. She literally flies up to him, telling him that she has built her house out of logs. Inari congratulates her, noting that she has done a great job. The girl thanks him for his kind words. Then Satsuki notices some boxes behind the man. She asks if he is packing his things. Inari replies that they are closing for the winter because there's a lot of snow, so he is getting ready. The main character freezes in shock and asks if that means she won't be able to get there in winter. Inari confirms her guess and adds that the tunnel will also be closed in case of bad weather. Satsuki asks again if this means that she won't be able to count on Inari or the shop in winter. He notes that there is also plenty of snow there and advises her to stock up on provisions and firewood. The girl slams her hands on the counter. She sadly admits that she has used up all the wood to build a log house and now she will have to chop more. Inari sighs sympathetically. He adds that there is still time before winter. He suggests building a storage room or something similar to keep food supplies there. Satsuki agrees with him and admits that, living in the mountains, it is worth preparing properly for winter. Inari promises her that he will take care of the firewood for her. The main character thanks him warmly. Satsuki goes to the store. She buys firewood and notices a memo about how to make it. The girl learns that the wood must be dried first, otherwise it will be unusable. The main character does not know exactly how much wood she will use during the winter, so she decides that it is better to be prepared to chop more wood herself. She picks up an axe. At the checkout, she pays for her purchases, and Satsuki, looking at the total, realizes that it is not a cheap endeavor. The main character stands on her property, thinking. Her loyal puppies accompany her. Satsuki considers using the slope behind the house for storage. The girl remembers a TV report about the aging of aged ham. They explain that a dry aging room is used for aging. The main character wants to make a storage room similar to the one she saw. Hearing a noise, Satsuki turns around abruptly. She greets Inari, who admires the house. The man informs her that he has brought all the firewood he had. The girl thanks him. She stammers about money, but the man replies that it's free. The main character tries to protest, reminding him that he didn't charge her last time either. Inari suggests considering the firewood a winter bonus. Suddenly, the man hears barking. Inari sees puppies. He angrily remarks that someone very rude has joined Satsuki. The girl replies that the dogs are just cute. Only then does the main character see that Inari's expression has changed. Even his usual smile has disappeared. She asks what's wrong. Inari asks if Satsuki knows what kind of animals they are. She replies that they are dogs. The man explains that they are white wolf pups, which, although small, are still magical creatures. Satsuki argues passionately, saying that the cubs saved her, adding that they are good and not harmful at all. Inari is not convinced, but he replies that since the girl doesn't mind, he doesn't either. He narrows his eyes grimly. He warns that some kind of powerful beast is approaching. Satsuki is frightened. Together, they approach the bushes. Inari grunts with a smile. 2 adult white wolves are sitting with their pups. Inari thinks they are the cubs' parents. Looking closer, Inari sees a barrier and realizes that no one seems to have invited the animals inside. Inari asks the adult white wolves aloud if these are their pups. One of them nods. Inari asks why the animals have come here. His furry companion snorts. The man continues his conversation with the white wolf. The main character realizes with delight that Inari really does talk to animals. Although the man always seems carefree, he is still a real god. He finishes the conversation and calls out to Satsuki. Inari asks if the white wolves can be led onto the property. Stammering, the girl anxiously asks if it is safe. Inari replies that everything is fine. The main character invites the animals to enter the territory. The white wolf puts its paw through the barrier. Satsuki nervously looks at the adult animals looming over her. But the white wolves caress the girl. She anxiously asks what happened. Inari smiles and advises the main character to pet the animals. Satsuki asks again, and then she pets the wolves. Soon she is hugging the magical creatures around the neck, admiring their smooth and fluffy fur. Then the puppies jump on the girl. She is touched by her friends, and they lick her face. Inari asks if Satsuki has already given the puppies names. The main character is surprised. Then she admits that she hasn't named them yet. Inari suggests giving names to all 4 of them. The girl hesitates. Then she asks the puppy for permission. He barks in agreement. Satsuki strokes the wolves on the head, trying hard to come up with names. Finally, she smiles broadly. The main character decides to name the male Haku and the female Yuki. Satsuki names the puppy's father Byakuya and their mother Shiroti. The white wolves are bathed in bright light. The girl covers her eyes with her palm. She stammers, asking what is happening. Inari smiles. Satsuki looks at the glowing animals in amazement. Suddenly, they bow before her. Byakuya informs her that they are counting on the main character, whom he calls his precious daughter. The girl realizes with confusion that she now understands the language of the white wolves too. Inari applauds Satsuki, explaining that by giving the animals names, the main character has made them her chosen beasts. The girl does not know what this means. Then Satsuki is called by the puppies, who suggest playing. They jump into the main character's arms. She playfully scolds them, saying that they are discussing important matters here. The puppies reply that it is better to play. Yuki asks if Satsuki understands her words, and she confirms that she does. Byakuya calls out to Inari. The wolf reports that the number of monsters around them is growing and growing. He wonders if the ancient dragon is awakening from its slumber. The man remarks that he himself does not yet know. Inari watches Satsuki stroking the puppies. He adds that the dragon has not yet fully awakened, but if it learns about the former saint, it will rush over in an instant. Byakuya says that in that case, the White Wolves will definitely protect Satsuki. Inari replies that he is counting on them. He asks them to protect the main character, as anything could happen. Byakuya agrees, bowing his head. Inari sighs. He was actually hoping to spend the end of the year quietly and peacefully with his family. However, Inari is going to visit the ancient dragon to say hello to the top of the mountain. In the cave, the dragon sleeps, curled up in a ball. But then the snake opens its eyes. Morning comes. The puppies call out to Satsuki loudly. They jump on the door and scratch at it with their claws. Yuki and Haku continue to call out to the main character. Satsuki sits up in bed and rubs her sleepy eyes. The log cabin is finally built. Life in the mountains seems surprisingly easy to the main character. At least that's what she thought. Satsuki pulls on her shirt, responding to the calls as she does so. Due to the harsh winter, the tunnel will be closed and the Inari campsite will be closed. So now it's time to prepare for the cold season. The main character goes outside and greets the puppies who have been waiting for her. They disapprovingly remark that she is slow and wonder if Satsuki has been sleeping all this time. The main character is delighted to see that the puppies are full of energy early in the morning. They confirm her words. Since the girl named the White Wolves on Inari's advice, the puppies have quietly become familiar, and Satsuki has begun to understand their speech. Yuki and Haku are curious about what they will be doing with the girl today. She replies that they will be cutting down trees. In general, the main character is happy that the puppies understand her words, but there's a small downside. She warns the puppies to stay away during mowing. The puppies reluctantly retreat. But a moment later, they begin to call out to Satsuki desperately. Haku is sure he has found a suitable tree. It is very large and strong. Yuki insists that another trunk is better suited and also demands the main character's attention. The downside is that the puppies are very noisy. Satsuki seems to be watching over the two lively children. She agrees with both puppies and asks them to wait a little. Yuki and Haku immediately call out to the girl impatiently, but she says that the grass needs to be mowed first. Finally, Satsuki sighs wearily and takes off her belt. The main character notices that she has already gathered enough firewood. She decides it's time to get started. First of all, the girl puts the mower away in her inventory. Satsuki wants to build a storage shed on the hillside, but she will also need a firewood storage shed, which will have to be built nearby. However, the main character needs to save wood because she needs to have some left for firewood. The girl is thinking about moving the old shed to another place because she doesn't really need it anymore. Satsuki opens her tablet and selects shed. The menu options include move, edit, and demolish. The main character decides to try something. She tries to move the structure on the map. She cries out in fright when the booth suddenly appears right in front of her face. Satsuki smiles nervously. Now the girl knows that buildings can be moved around the map without being rebuilt. She decides that she will now use the booth as a shed for firewood. The main character carefully moves the structure a little more. Going inside the building, Satsuki decides not to waste time and immediately unloads the logs from her inventory. Soon everything is ready. Then the main character remembers that it might snow, so it would be a good idea to build a carport. Wood will also be needed for firewood, so this resource must be used sparingly. Satsuki decides to build a storage facility first. She decides to do it quickly. First, the main character digs a side tunnel using the digging mode so that nothing collapses. Finally, the depth seems to be right. Now she needs to reinforce the walls with concrete. Next, the girl seals the entrance. Satsuki screws a door to the wall. The storage room is ready, as is the woodshed. The main character is curious about what's inside the new building. She opens the door and goes inside. Satsuki is surprised to see a cloud of steam coming out of her mouth. She notes with satisfaction that the storage room is already cool, which is just perfect for a warehouse. The girl wonders if the perfume is helping her with this too. She laughs quietly. Then she thanks her magical helpers. Satsuki smiles again and leaves the storage room. As soon as the main character leaves the room, a bright sphere of light appears in it. The spirits jump for joy. They are simply happy that their mistress has praised them. Now the magical creatures are ready to try even harder. A satisfied Satsuki heads home. She is glad that all the work on the plot is finished. The puppies play happily behind the main character. Now it's time for the girl to go shopping for the last few things. Satsuki enters the store. She's ready to splurge. The main character approaches the food shelves. She picks up some sausage, thinking that she now has enough food. But then the girl is distracted by a wonderful aroma. Turning around, Satsuki sees fresh bread that looks very appetizing. Then she remembers that it seems possible to bake bread in the mess hall. Her mouth waters at the thought, and the main character decides to try baking bread herself. If she succeeds, she can bake pizza too. Satsuki is already thinking about making a special pizza oven. The girl's mood even improves. The main character takes the gas and examines the stove. She looks at the curtains and finds a dog brush, which she immediately picks up, remembering Yuki. Approaching the shelves, Satsuki stops in front of the plants. The girl realizes that these are fruit seedlings. She wonders if they will take root in another world. The main character would like to grow not only vegetables, but also fruit. She decides to take a few seedlings. Finally, Satsuki makes her way to the parking lot and gets in her car. Another shopping trip has come to an end. The girl checks her checkbook. Money comes to her without delay, and if she doesn't spend it thoughtlessly, everything will be fine. The main character remembers. On the way home, she will need to stop by Inari's place and pick up the firewood she ordered. After making her way there, Satsuki stops at the house. She gets out of the car and greets him cheerfully. But then she freezes in shock. Inari is dressed in a business suit. He warmly welcomes the main character. She asks in surprise why the man is dressed like that. Inari sighs heavily and replies that he has to go to a meeting with a difficult person. The girl nods understandingly. Inari asks how Satsuki can help. She explains that she has come to pick up the firewood she ordered and asks if he has time for that. Inari says that everything is fine. He helps the main character carry the firewood and put it in the trunk. Satsuki cheerfully remarks that equipment would be very useful right now. Laughing, the man replies that, unfortunately, the tablet does not work here. He notes that the girl has bought quite a lot. She explains that she just took everything that could be useful in one way or another. Inari laughs and says that it's understandable because it's Satsuki's first winter. Closing the trunk, the main character anxiously asks if she has enough firewood. Inari chuckles thoughtfully. He replies that if she uses it sparingly, everything will be fine. He adds that if she is worried about it, she should stock up on more. Scratching the back of his head, Inari explains that it all depends on habits. Satsuki agrees. The man asks if everything is okay with the firewood preparation. The main character replies that she has the tools, so things are moving along. Then Inari remembers something. After going home, the man returns with a box in his hands. He hands it to Satsuki, telling her to take it with her. She takes the box, confused. Opening it, the girl cries out in delight. Inside are various food items. Inari explains that he packed meat, dried persimmons, and other long-lasting food for the main character. He advises her to eat it during the winter. Satsuki thanks him for his help. The main character gets into the car. She and Inari say goodbye to each other. The man wishes Satsuki luck as he watches her leave. After making sure the car has driven away, Inari decides that it is time for him to hit the road. Satsuki reflects on her journey. Who is Inari going to pay his respects to? She cannot believe that even such a powerful being as Inari has superiors. Meanwhile, the fox god is transported to the very top of the mountain. To his surprise, he notices a glow above one of the peaks. Inari flies over the tops of withered trees and stops at the top of the mountain. Squinting, the fox god notes that something has grown quite well. The dragon sleeps in a cave. Sensing something, it opens its eyes slightly. Inari leans toward the snake with a beaming smile, greeting the creature. The dragon remains silent and sullen. The fox god dances around the dragon's snout, patting its scales and trying to wake it up. The snake lies there, seemingly oblivious. Suddenly, the dragon opens its eyes and growls that it is too noisy here. Frightened, Inari recoils. Smiling, he says he knew the dragon wasn't asleep. The fox god asks the dragon to tone down his magical power. Inari introduces himself again. He leans closer to the snake. He suggests they talk, and the dragon squints suspiciously. The ancient dragon finally awakens. After a moment of silence, this asks who dare to come to him. The snake notices that there are no creatures that do not tremble before his aura. Moreover, judging by the aura of the visitor himself, he is not from this world at all. Inari agrees and introduces himself again. Smiling broadly, he adds that he is the god of the world where the reborn former saint named Mochizuki Satsuki now lives. The main character herself, unaware of anything, decorates her room. Long ago, the saint and the ancient dragon were friends, managing to overcome their differences. When all kinds of monsters attacked the world, they fought side by side. When poisonous miasma thickened, the friends traveled the land and saved people's lives. But the saint, who fought tirelessly for others, was betrayed. She was betrayed by her own fiancé, the crown prince. The girl was accused of attempting to assassinate the king and seize the throne, and then executed. Upon learning the truth about what had happened, the ancient dragon flew into a rage. He destroyed that kingdom. Ignos feared that the world would not be able to withstand the power of such anger. He made the dragon an offer. Ignos told the serpent that the saint would surely return, but that the dragon would wait for that moment in a deep sleep. So the serpent fell asleep for a long time. The dragon excitedly asks Inari if it is true that the saint has returned. He asks the dragon to calm down, but the ancient creature is simply unable to calm down. He asks where the saint is now. The dragon wants to know her whereabouts immediately. The fox god quietly replies that this is impossible. The snake asks again, enraged. Spreading his arms, Inari says that, alas, the people of his world do not possess magic. Therefore, the dragon will not be able to detect the saint's magical trail. The serpent is silent. Then he remarks that life is difficult in this world without magic. He asks if the saint has a hard life. Inari smiles broadly and asks the dragon not to worry. The fox god explains that he and Ignos have already taken care of everything. After another pause, the dragon asks if the girl is happy. Inari answers in the affirmative and adds that she seems to be having a lot of fun. The dragon asks the puzzled fox god for his name again. Then he asks Inari to convey something to the saint. An egg falls into the man's hands. Inari is puzzled. She asks if the dragon is so eager to meet the girl. He barks that the fox god has no idea how long the snake has been waiting for the saint. The dragon orders that the egg be given to the girl. Inari promises that she will do so when the opportunity arises, quickly making her way to the exit. The fox god says goodbye and slips out of the cave. The dragon squints. He promises that in this life, he will definitely protect Satsuki Mochizuki. He sinks into memories of the time spent with the saint and closes his eyes. The main character cries out joyfully, seeing a new app called Identification. Satsuki cheerfully runs out into the street. She can't wait to use the new feature, which, just like in a fantasy, can recognize anything. The girl taps the icon, ready to try out the app right away. A request appears on the screen to point the camera at the object for identification. Satsuki thinks about what to check. Suddenly, puppies run out of the bushes, announcing that they have come for a walk. The main character greets them. She asks them not to move. She points the camera at the puzzled puppies. They ask if this is a new game. A message appears on the screen saying that scanning is in progress. Satsuki says that everything is fine and asks the puppies not to move again. Information appears on the tablet. White wolf, mixed with Fenrir, male, 12 years old, possesses holy and wind magic. The girl reads in shock. She remembers Fenrir, a classic fantasy creature. Satsuki admires the puppies, who also possess magic. She twirls a confused Haku in her arms, while Yuki indignantly demands attention as well. The main character tosses her friends up one by one. An axe and a chainsaw are already waiting for Satsuki by the stump. The puppies ask what they will be doing today. The girl puts on safety goggles and explains that they will be chopping wood. The puppies don't know what that is. The main character explains that it is something that is burned to make fire. She admits that the puppies had no way of knowing this information. Satsuki shows them that the wood needs to be cut into pieces similar to those already stacked in the shed. She also warns the puppies to stay away, as this work is dangerous. They agree. The main character starts up a chainsaw and enthusiastically gets to work. But the puppies shudder in horror, flattening their ears and growling that the sound is too loud. Confused, Satsuki apologizes, asking if it really is that noisy. They angrily reply that it's ringing in their ears. Then the puppy's parents rush into the clearing, anxiously asking if Satsuki is okay. The main character shows them the source of the sound. Byakuya says that he heard this noise for the first time and was frightened. The girl apologizes again for scaring the wolves. Shiroti notes that the wolves can help Satsuki with her task. The main character is surprised, and the she-wolf demonstrates what she means. She approaches the log. She raises her front paw and swings it over the trunk. It instantly breaks into firewood. The girl excitedly asks what that was. Shiroti modestly replies that it was her magic. Satsuki recalls that white wolves possess the power of wind. The she-wolf asks if there are any more logs. Hesitating, the main character shows her several logs and asks if Shiroti can handle them too. She replies that she can handle it without any problems and gets to work. Satsuki looks longingly at the axe and chainsaw. She tries to reassure herself that it wasn't a waste of money. The main character still didn't know about the magic of white wolves, and besides, it's not always possible to ask for help. Byakuya calls out to Satsuki. He asks if the puppies can get the job done. She replies that she doesn't mind and asks if they can handle it. The puppies admit that they don't know, but they really want to try. The main character realizes that this will be something like magic training. She asks Yuki and Haku for help. They happily jump into the job, promising that the girl will not regret her decision. The adult wolves explain that they need to focus on the trunks first. Satsuki is going to plant the seedlings she bought for now. The main character digs in an apple tree, signing the planting. She wishes for the seedling to grow big. The tree immediately increases in size. No matter how much the girl wants apples, she asks the seedling to grow slowly and carefully. If Satsuki hadn't said that, something terrible could have happened. The girl watches the puppies work. It's still difficult for them, but they're getting somewhere. One of the adult wolves asks them to be more careful. Satsuki rushes into the house, deciding to treat her helpers to something delicious. She chooses ham, and she starts cutting it up. Then the main character freezes, wondering if it is okay to give this to dogs at all. Putting the treat on a plate, she decides to clarify this point first. Going outside, Satsuki calls out to Shiroti. Showing the wolf the ham, the girl asks if it is okay to eat it. Shiroti's eyes shine, and the puppies look at the slices, noting that it smells very tasty. Then, to the surprise of the main character and the indignation of Yuki and Haku, the wolf licks the treat off the plate. She tells Satsuki that it is very tasty. The puppies cry out that it is not fair. The girl anxiously asks if it is safe for dogs. The wolf replies that everything is fine and that it is just a treat. Shiroti notes that she now feels as if she is overflowing with strength. Ada remarks that this is because Satsuki had a hand in the food. She replies confusedly that she just cut the ham. The wolf says that even this seems to give her strength and adds that the main character is truly great. The puppies continue to fuss and beg for ham. The girl hurriedly rushes into the house, asking them to wait a moment. Satsuki rushes to the ham and points the camera at it. Information appears on the screen stating that if the product is sliced by a former saint, it restores the body of any creature. The girl is surprised and wonders what kind of ham this is, sliced by a former saint? Then a sudden thought occurs to her. Satsuki starts pointing the camera at everything. The log cabin, the seedlings, the lantern. It has a barrier effect, including protection of the spirit of light, and the plants also have a purifying effect, but most importantly, all these objects have something in common. They were all built, planted, or dug up by the former saint. The main character stares at the screen in shock. Everything that is happening fits together into some kind of crazy story. Reading information about the lantern, Satsuki realizes that she is this former saint. The girl combs Yuki's hair. Yuki asks her to brush her back a little more. Satsuki's hands are already full of fur. She couldn't believe that so much would fall out during molting. Haku touches the main character with his paw and reminds her that it's his turn now. She agrees, and the puppies switch places. Now Haku enjoys being combed. Preparations for the harsh season are complete, and real winter has arrived. Satsuki doesn't waste any time. She tries new activities, baking bread and sewing. The girl enjoys winter to the fullest. The year is also gradually coming to an end. The main character hopes that everything will be fine in the coming year. Satsuki prepares mochi. She dips it, wraps it, and tastes it. Moaning with pleasure, the girl realizes that she can't imagine the new year without mochi. When Satsuki first bought the mountain, she had no idea what would come of this adventure. Nevertheless, the main character is happy to have met the new year. She opens a bag of dried persimmons and takes out one fruit. The girl tastes the fruit and finds it very delicious. After chewing, she takes out the pit and looks at it thoughtfully. Satsuki wonders if it will sprout if she plants the pit in the ground. The main character remembers that, in addition to persimmons, she also has dried plums and canned cherries. She can also remove the pits from all of these delicacies. Satsuki jumps up, deciding to try planting the future plants. The main character gets dressed and leaves the house. Shivering, she notices that it is cold outside. It is snowing heavily outside. The girl opens her mouth in surprise. She doesn't understand what is happening. It seems like a blizzard is raging, but there isn't even a slight breeze around the house. Satsuki decides that this is the barrier effect she read about in the identification appendix. The main character realizes that if a former saint, that is, she, touches something, that object receives some kind of special protection. All her structures, fences, sheds, and even garden lanterns, create a barrier that covers the entire area. Satsuki recalls that even Byakuya and the other white wolves could not enter her property without permission. This means that animals could not get inside the barrier. Remembering her friends, the main character wonders if they are all right now. The girl believes that since they are wild animals, they should be able to cope. But then, after pelting Satsuki with snow, the white wolves run into the territory, apologizing for their intrusion. The main character anxiously calls out to Byakuya. She asks if they're all right. The wolf brushes off the snow, saying that the precipitation is just terrible. He asks if they can stay at Satsuki's place until the blizzard subsides. The girl immediately agrees, inviting the wolves to come in and make themselves comfortable. Byakuya looks at the barrier and the storm raging behind it. He notes that the protection is simply incredible. Satsuki's barrier is much more powerful than the wolf had thought. It protects not only from snow, but even from wind. The main character, laughing awkwardly, realizes that it really is her protection. The girl is distracted from her thoughts by the puppies running up to her, calling her name. Satsuki asks if they are okay. Haku complains that it is very cold. Yuki adds that the wind was just terrible. The main character coos, feeling sorry for the poor puppies. She pats Yuki on the cheeks, and he melts from the warmth of the girl's hands. The main character laughs, noticing the funny expression on the puppy's face. The adult wolves, keeping their distance, exchange serious glances. Shiroti notes that such a blizzard is very rare for this time of year. Byakuya seriously agrees. The she-wolf anxiously suggests that the storm may be connected to an ancient dragon. Her companion is not sure. He adds that all they can do is keep a close eye on the situation. While petting Yuki, Satsuki suddenly looks up. She had just had a wonderful idea. The main character decides to build a house for the White Wolf family. Byakuya hastily refuses, saying that there is no need to worry. But the girl is already rushing to get to work, saying on the go that this way her friends will be able to visit Satsuki without any embarrassment. The main character turns on her tablet, explaining that thanks to her preparations for winter, she has plenty of wood and glasses. Building a doghouse will be no trouble at all for her. But Satsuki is in for a cruel disappointment. The doghouse turns out to be tiny compared to Byakuya. The White Wolves will simply be very cramped, even if they manage to get inside. The main character leaves through the catalog, thinking about what else to come up with. Her gaze stops on a stable. It's an excellent option that is the perfect size. Satsuki clicks on the icon, and a building appears right in front of her and the wolf family. The girl opens the doors, inviting her furry friends to come in and make themselves at home. Shiroti asks if it's really okay for them to stay in such a luxurious place. Satsuki immediately confirms that it is. The puppies are already running ahead, admiring the spacious room. The main character secretly hopes that the wolves will stay in the stable. Then Satsuki will be able to pet them whenever she wants. Yuki settles in contentedly, announcing that this is now her place. Haku immediately starts to protest, barking that it's not fair. However, distracted, he quickly takes a seat opposite, which he proudly announces aloud. Yuki cheerfully replies that they are now neighbors. Satsuki thinks that the puppies are happy, and that's what matters most. Shiroti politely thanks the main character for taking care of them. The girl says that everything is fine. She adds that if they lay down some straw, it will be even more comfortable. The wolf girl happily replies that it's amazing. At this point, Byakuya suddenly becomes alert. He warns Satsuki that something is approaching. The main character is surprised, but then a gust of wind blows the doors open. The girl covers herself with her hands, and the white wolf rushes forward. Satsuki asks what is happening. Byakuya says that someone has managed to break through the barrier. The main character is shocked by these words. The wolf orders her to stay inside, while he rushes out into the street. The girl calls out to him, but suddenly she freezes in confusion. Someone gasps, and a snow-covered hat appears in the doorway. Byakuya stops. The newcomer complains about the weather. In a surprise, Satsuki recognizes the ever-smiling Inari. He says that this place is simply heaven on earth. The fox god congratulates the girl on the new year, and she responds with the same, confused. Byakuya sits down, saying that Inari has passed through the barrier. He notices that he has frightened everyone a little. The puppies recognize the newcomer and cry out, ready to run away. Shiroti barks at them, try to rein in the rascals. Inari laughs and promises not to eat the puppies. Satsuki asks what brought the fox god here, since he closed his camp for the winter. He admits that this is true and says that he has come to give the girl something. The main character asks in surprise. Inari smiles and takes out an egg. Byakuya's eyes widen and his ears flatten. He starts to say something. The fox god notices that the magic of this object seems too strong for the wolves. He adds that the puppies have fainted. Frightened, Satsuki calls Yuki and Haku. She picks up one puppy in her arms, and Shiroti takes the other. The main character asks Inari to step aside for now. Soon, Satsuki approaches the man and asks what is going on. He hastily apologizes, explaining that he had been keeping the item in his inventory all this time. He adds that he did not think the weather would get so bad. The main character asks again, not understanding. Inari happily places the egg in the girl's hands. Satsuki realizes that the object is warm and heavy. The blizzard suddenly subsides, causing the main character to open her mouth in shock. Inari remarks that they are very lucky. He takes off his jacket. He adds that since the storm has stopped, everything is fine. Satsuki tries again to understand what is happening, but the fox god suggests bringing the item into the house first. He cheerfully adds that it will be easier to contain the magic there. The main character agrees, and timidly asks what kind of egg it is. Inari smiles and asks if the girl doesn't know herself. The fox god announces that it is the egg of an ancient dragon. Satsuki asks again, confused, and immediately Licking her lips, she asks if it's tasty, hoping that she's been given another treat. Inari hastily says, meaning that the egg cannot be eaten. Finally, the storm subsides. Byakuya peeks out from the room reserved for white wolves. He stares intently into the distance. Turning to his partner, Byakuya notices that the magical energy has also subsided. Shiroti is pleased to hear this news. However, the she-wolf excitedly notes that all of this is connected, the weather and the egg. She suspects that an ancient dragon has awakened. Byakuya thoughtfully agrees and suggests that because of this monster, they are now moving to their lands. Both wolves hope that Satsuki is okay. Now the main character has to live with a suspicious egg in the same house. Satsuki stretches her lips into a wide smile. The fox god responds in kind. Throwing the door wide open, the girl makes an inviting gesture with her hand. She insistently tries to get Inari to stay a little longer. Satsuki reminds him that he came through such a blizzard and in such cold weather. She advises him to have at least a cup of tea before leaving. The fox god nervously replies that he only came in for a second to deliver the egg. The main character abruptly puts her hand on his shoulder. She makes it clear that he cannot leave without any explanation, simply leaving her with some strange egg. Inari obediently agrees and begins to take off his boots. Satsuki leaves to make tea. Entering the room, Inari notices the pillows by the table. He looks at them in amazement and says that the main character has once again managed to create something stunning. The girl carries a tray with 2 cups of tea. She apologizes that the pillows turned out so crooked and adds that she still has a lot of work to do. Inari explains that he was not referring to the quality. He meant that the main character had put a powerful blessing into her creations. Satsuki's eyes widen in surprise, and she decides to check the information on her tablet. The description of the handmade pillow says that it is intended only for Satsuki and serves to scare away monsters. Thanks to the blessing of healing, the product accelerates the restoration of strength. The girl is convinced of the fox god's rightness. Inari, meanwhile, sits down on the pillow. He asks if Satsuki used white wolf fur as stuffing. The fur already scares away monsters, and considering that the pillow was made by the main character, the effect is multiplied many times over. Looking up from her tablet, Satsuki asks if blessings appear easily. The fox god vehemently objects, explaining that this does not usually happen. She hesitates. The main character asks what former saint means. Inari slaps his forehead and sighs heavily. The girl frowns and asks what happened. The fox god admits that he didn't take into account that the identification app allows you to check everything. He scratches the back of his head. He adds that Ignos asked him not to tell Satsuki about the former saint. The main character asks again, hearing an unfamiliar name. Inari notes that he hasn't mentioned him yet, and the girl agrees. With a smile, the fox god announces that Ignos is the creator of this world. Satsuki looks at him in amazement. She reminds him that Inari is a god himself. He replies that this is only true in the real world. In Japan, Inari is a god, but in this world, it is Ignos. The tunnel serves as the boundary between the worlds. Becoming serious, Inari says that Satsuki is a reincarnated saint in this world. This information shocks the main character to the core. Inari and Satsuki sit facing each other. After a moment of silence, with a mysterious smile on her face, the main character says that she thought so the fox god could have surprised her even more. He looks at her in confusion. The girl continues, explaining that the identification results gave her some clues. However, Satsuki asks why she was reborn in the real world. Inari replies that he doesn't know himself, although he is sure that there's a reason and that it is not without cause. The main character grunts discontentedly. The fox god asks her not to take this news negatively. He explains that Ignos could have forcibly taken the girl to this world, but did not do so out of respect for Satsuki's decisions and will. The god did not press the issue because he wanted the main character to live happily on the mountain and nothing more. Satsuki is surprised by Inari's words. Then the fox god adds that the tablet was also created by Ignos. This shocks the girl even more. But suddenly her attention is drawn to an egg that is showing signs of life. The main character anxiously asks what is wrong with her new suspicious ward. Inari, with a tense smile on his face, replies that it is the egg of an ancient dragon. The fox god explains that Satsuki, who was a saint in her past life, was a close friend of the snake. Completely confused, the main character asks again. Inari announces that the girl's appearance in this world has awakened the ancient dragon from its slumber. With a beaming expression, the fox god adds that when he visited the snake, it asked him to give the egg to Satsuki. With her eyes wide, the main character stammers, asking if she understood correctly that the ancient dragon had awakened. Inari confirms that the girl has heard correctly. The snake slept until the saint returned to this world. Satsuki nervously remarks that this is probably dangerous. The fox god casually replies that, according to rumors, this dragon has a calm temperament, so everything is fine. The main character, exclaiming indignantly, asks why her interlocutor is so calm. Jumping up and waving her hand sharply, Satsuki reminds him that they are talking about an ancient dragon who, in fact, can breathe fire and destroy worlds. Inari is not moved by her words. He is sure that the serpent will never harm his old friend. The fox god advises the main character to simply have a heart-to-heart talk with the ancient dragon if it suddenly pays her a visit. The girl asks in horror. She cannot believe that the serpent will ever come to her house. Inari, still unperturbed, remarks that this is most likely what will happen. The ancient dragon gave the egg to find Satsuki's location. The main character opens her mouth wide, unable to find the words. Then she tries to return the egg to Inari, asking him to keep it. The fox god advises her not to worry so much. He points to the window, suggesting she admire the weather. The girl does not understand what Inari is getting at. He explains that it means the dragon is happy because the egg has finally reached the main character. Noticing Satsuki's confusion, the fox god explains that the dragon caused the storm and blizzard because the precious cargo was slightly delayed. Inari adds that it's just terrible. The girl slowly asks again if the blizzard really started because the fox god didn't give her the snake egg on time. He waves his hand dismissively and says that there was nothing he could do. He and his whole family went on vacation to a southern island. Laughing and ignoring his interlocutor's indignation, Inari cheerfully remarks that all these long-lived people are just terribly impatient. Taking out his phone, the fox god offers to show her some photos. Satsuki shouts Inari's name. He rushes out of the house with the same smile on his face. Waving goodbye, he says he will see her in the spring. The main character watches him gloomily from her house. She doesn't understand how such an irresponsible person can be a god. The girl can only hope that everything is okay in the real world. Satsuki heads to the stable, which serves as a home for white wolves. Shiroti and Byakuya greet the main character. She asks if everything is okay with them. The wolf asks how she is feeling. He notices that she has been under a very strong magical influence. Laughing, Satsuki replies that she is fine. She explains that she didn't feel anything because she has no magic. Looking at the sleeping puppies, the main character notes that the wolves have had a hard time. Shiroti stretches her head and asks, "Is it true that Inari brought the ancient dragon's egg?" The girl says that it seems to be true. Byakuya says that he thought so. Satsuki asks them not to worry. As long as the egg is inside the log cabin, the magic won't leak out. Shiroti agrees, noting that the weather has calmed down. The main character says she will leave the egg at home, and the white wolves will have nothing to worry about. The girl says that even though the storm has subsided, it is still very cold outside. She suggests that the family stay in the stable until it warms up. Shiroti, squinting slightly, thanks the main character. Everything is calm and clear outside. Satsuki opens the door slightly and steps out onto the porch. She leans on the railing and notices that the weather has been excellent since she received the egg. The snow has stopped, although it is still freezing outside. The main character nervously wonders if the ancient dragon is in a good mood now. The girl descends the steps and stands in the yard. Satsuki lists everything new she has heard and learned. The creator of Ignos, the ancient dragon. She herself is a former saint. The main character approaches the woodpile. Taking out her tablet, she admits that everything has become too big now. Now everything that is happening is like fantasy. The girl begins to put the wood into her inventory. Then Satsuki notices something, that the tree has sprouted. She marvels at the fact that even a seed from umebashi has managed to sprout. The main character crouches down in front of the seedling. With a smile, she hopes that the other seeds she planted will sprout as well. Satsuki heads to the stable. Entering the room, she calls out to the white wolves. Silence is her only response. The girl looks around in confusion and notices that it is strange that no one is inside. Then Shiroti calls to her from the stall. The main character goes to her and asks where everyone else has gone. The she-wolf replies that they have all gone hunting. Satsuki asks anxiously why she stayed home and asks if Shiroti is sick. Shiroti laughs and replies that, on the contrary, everything is fine. She replies that, on the contrary, everything is fine. The she-wolf happily adds that it is a happy event. The girl listens to her in surprise. Shiroti says that she seems to be expecting a baby. Completely confused, the main character asks again. Then she realizes that the wolf is pregnant. Shiroti nods in agreement. Satsuki's scream is heard throughout the neighborhood. A rabbit carcass falls at the main character's feet. Yuki happily announces that it is a gift for the girl. Haku explains that his sister caught today's game. She proudly lifts her nose, saying that she tried very hard. Satsuki crouches down to be at the same level as the puppies. She admiringly remarks that Yuki is simply clever. Suddenly, a rustle in the bushes catches the main character's attention. Turning around, she sees Byakuya emerging from the bushes, dragging a bear carcass. Haku admires his father and says that he killed the forest beast with a single blow, using wind magic. Yuki echoes her brother, saying that their father is very cool. Satsuki can't even believe that such a thing is possible. Smiling, the girl thinks that the wolf is trying hard for the sake of his future child. The main character stares intently at the offering. They killed the rabbit, but now they don't know what to do with it. Satsuki grunts in confusion. She thinks that since it's a rabbit, they can cook something with it. But just in case, she decides to check her tablet. The girl scans the animal's carcass. She learns that it is a horned rabbit, a magical beast. During an attack, a horn grows out of its forehead. The rabbit is edible. The main character is surprised that the game turns out to be a magical beast and not just a rabbit. Although it looks ordinary, the horn that appears during battle frightens Satsuki. The girl decides to put the puppy's gift away in her inventory for now. She thinks again, because if she cooks the rabbit, she will have to cut it up. Here, the main character sees a list of available actions. Among them are dispose of, cut up, and sell. Satsuki happily discovers the new options. The girl decides that these appeared after upgrading her inventory, and she simply didn't notice it. She likes the update, and the main character is going to try the cut up option. She clicks on the inscription. A new menu appears from the rabbit icon. Now, instead of just one carcass, bones, blood, skin, meat, entrails, horns, and a magic stone are available. Satsuki spins around with the tablet in her hands, thanking Ignos for such a convenient device. She finds information that recycling gives KP, and selling seems to give gold, which is the local currency. The main character chooses blood, bones, and entrails. She sends them for disposal. The girl sells the rabbit's skin and horn. Now, there is the magic stone left. Satsuki has no idea what it is and decides to just leave it in her inventory for now. But she knows exactly what to do with the meat. The girl even licks her lips. Soon, a finished dish is proudly displayed on the table, stewed horned rabbit. Satsuki oui cherche bon appétit. She tries a piece. She likes the taste and decides that game is more than suitable for food. The main character likes the opportunity to provide herself with food right in this world. She wonders if the puppies will bring her more prey. Sometime later, Satsuki mows the grass. Finally, sighing wearily, she decides she has done enough work for today. Shiroti approaches and notices that the girl has worked hard. The main character is surprised that the wolf has come outside. She explains that it is good for her to stretch her legs sometimes. Shiroti adds that she would like to talk to Satsuki about spirits. The girl asks in confusion. The wolf says that with the arrival of the main character, there are more spirits and the land has become richer. However, now there are too many spirits on the site. Satsuki is surprised by what she hears. Shiroti notes that magical creatures are now even fighting over the right to help the girl. This completely confuses the main character. The she-wolf adds that now, due to the increased number of spirits and the fact that they are very noisy, problems arise. Probably, in order to cope with the difficulties, it would be necessary to expand the space. Satsuki asks how exactly to do this. Shiroti suggests planting more trees for the earth spirits. This will please not only them, but also the spirits of light and water. For the latter, the pond could be expanded or channels dug for them. The spirits of light really like the lanterns, so it's worth putting more of them. The she-wolf adds that the number of spirits will most likely continue to grow, so it would be best to expand the territory itself. Because the land is poorer in other places, magical creatures gather in this area. Satsuki agrees and sighs, realizing that now she will have to take care of the spirits as well. She thanks Shiroti for the tip. Now, at least the girl knows where to start. The wolf also thanks the main character. Satsuki decides not to waste any time. She turns on her tablet and selects tree seedlings, planting them on the plot itself and along the road. The main character expands the pond, to the delight of the puppies who have joined her. Then the girl, Yuki, and Haku start digging a stream, some with shovels and some with their paws. Satisfied with the work done, Satsuki spins around with the puppy. Now it's time to expand the plot. To do this, the main character sets about mowing the grass and cutting down trees. With all these chores, time flies by. March arrives. Now the tunnel is finally open again. Satsuki goes to the store. She happily rushes to the candy counter, noticing new treats she has never seen before. After a long winter, the main character cannot resist such an abundance of delicacies. Her hand seems to grab more and more sweets on its own. Next, the girl stops at the flashlights, which are being sold in bulk. She walks around the household goods shelves. and a frozen food display. Finally, Satsuki goes to a cafe and enjoys the dish served to her. She hasn't eaten outside her home in a long time. The main character decides to stop by Inari on her way home. The girl drives up to the Fox God's campsite and climbs up to his house. Inari greets her, looking up from reading the newspaper. He is glad that the main character decided to visit him because she has just received some mail. Satsuki thanks him, and she is surprised to see that one of the letters is from her company. Inari thinks they are documents for the final settlement of the year. The girl is amazed by his words. She realizes that she needs to file a tax return. The main character is worried that she won't have enough time. The Fox God offers to help her. Satsuki is surprised by his words. Inari tells her to let him figure it out. With an ominous smile on his face, he adds that he is very good with taxes. The main character can only thank him once again. She says goodbye to the Fox God. Satsuki gets into the car. Smiling nervously, the girl thinks that even though Inari is a god, it is difficult for him to combine reality and the other world. She drives into the tunnel as usual. However, a surprise awaits her on the other side. The main character is met by a blizzard. The car skids. The girl barely manages to regain control. Satsuki is breathing heavily, clutching the steering wheel tightly. She was afraid she would die. Of course, the main character lives in the mountains, but even for this area, such sudden changes in weather are unusual. Satsuki looks up and is amazed to see the bright sun. Only then does she begin to suspect something. The main character rushes to the house and jumps out of the car like a bullet. The girl runs up to the egg. Satsuki hurriedly picks it up and indignantly shouts that it is unacceptable to cause a blizzard just because she was away for a short time. After all, someone could have gotten into an accident because of such a blizzard. The main character demands that this never happen again. The ancient dragon sighs sadly in his cave. The snake asks her not to be angry because he was just worried. The ancient dragon curls up into a ball. Although Satsuki seems to have left for just a moment, she has disappeared from this world without a trace. The snake realizes that this is simply unbearable. He decides that he has slept too long, and therefore his magic is now difficult to control. With such power, it is difficult for the snake to even go outside. The ancient dragon howls plaintively, wanting to see the main character as soon as possible. Satsuki goes to the stable. She anxiously calls out to Shiroti, wanting to make sure she is all right after the blizzard. As soon as she enters, the girl freezes in shock. It turns out that the puppies have already been born and are lying next to their mother. The main character looks at the triplets with tenderness. Satsuki comes closer and praises Shiroti. She thanks her for her kind words. The entire White Wolf family has gathered here. The girl notices that Yuki is now the older sister, and she proudly agrees. Haku urgently needs to know if this means he is the older brother. Satsuki returns to her home. She closes the door. She says that the puppies are real cuties. The girl did not expect that 3 babies would be born. Then she remembers the egg that hasn't hatched yet. The main character checks it, but the shell is intact. She already thinks that no one should appear from it, that the egg simply serves as a kind of beacon for the dragon. The girl laughs at this thought. Suddenly, the shell cracks and someone's paw appears. Satsuki freezes with a smile on her face. Then she realizes that someone is really hatching. The shell flies in all directions. The newborn chick cries loudly. The main character realizes with a cry that someone has really hatched. The egg hatched almost simultaneously with the appearance of Shiroti's puppies. At first, the dragon cried incessantly. It was almost impossible to calm him down. Byakuya claimed that the baby's cry could be heard even at the top of the mountain. But after a million fruitless attempts and mistakes, Satsuki finally found a way to calm the dragon: cow's milk. After drinking, the baby calmed down, and the main character was able to breathe a sigh of relief. Since the dragon hatched, the girl has spent all day caring for it. Satsuki carries it in her arms and sings to it. She pours it milk. Although the baby hatched from the egg of a fearsome ancient dragon, the main character decided to raise it herself because she had already put so much effort into it. The girl has already become attached to the dragon. Holding the baby in her outstretched arms, Satsuki wonders where the little one's parents are. He just squeaks something in response. The main character has adapted a backpack to carry the baby. Now the dragon hangs behind her back and can watch what is happening. Satsuki asks if the baby is comfortable, and he chirps happily. The girl goes down the stairs, holding a tablet in her hands. She hopes that the dragon will soon learn to fly, because it has wings. Satsuki glances at the stable. The baby's arrival has caused some problems. After hatching, the dragon seems to have become even more powerful than when it was in the egg. Now the little one is carefree, trying to catch a butterfly. The family of white wolves had to return to their den, located at the top of the mountain behind the house. This upsets the main character because she wanted to cuddle the triplets some more. She tells the dragon to learn to control his magic, but he just squeaks in confusion. Satsuki gasps with admiration. The cherry tree she planted not long ago has already grown tall and is in full bloom. The main character admires the trees. The girl believes that everything is fine with the water source and its development. The seeds she planted are also growing well. Now she wants to plant plants near the house and the tunnel. Satsuki is thinking about planting an entire orchard around the log cabin. The only thing stopping her is the high cost of KP, and she wants to increase the storage level. Then the main character realizes something. If she plants trees using her tablet, she spends KP, but if she does everything herself, she doesn't lose any points. It turns out that if she plants the seedlings she bought or the seeds from the fruit she ate, she won't spend any KP. Satsuki now regrets that she didn't realize this before planting an entire alley. Next time, the main character plans to buy as many seedlings and fruits as possible. Then the dragon starts crying and pats the girl on the shoulder with his paw. Satsuki turns around and thinks that the baby is hungry. Soon, the dragon is full and sleeping peacefully on a pillow. The main character holds an empty milk carton in confusion. The little one has quite an appetite. The package is already empty. She tells the baby that she will go and buy some more. At the store, Satsuki looks at the seedlings on sale. She is not going to repeat her previous mistakes, so she chooses fruit with pits. The main character fills the entire cart with milk cartons. She thinks that buying so much is still too much. The girl thinks about buying a refrigerator. It will soon get even hotter, so she needs to think carefully. Satsuki sticks the shovel into the ground with satisfaction. She has planted all the seedlings she intended to. On the other side of the stream, towards the tunnel, blueberries and olives will grow. Closer to the spring, the girl planted mandarin, chestnut, pear, and mulberry seedlings. The main character thinks happily that if everything takes root, she will have a real fruit garden. Satsuki takes out her tablet. She has already done a good job of arranging everything around the house. Now the girl wants to check on the rest of the place. Someone calls out to Satsuki. She turns around and greets Byakuya happily. The wolf greets her in return. He apologizes for the fact that he and his family do not live in the stable that the main character built for them. The girl replies that everything is fine and asks if the dragon really has such strong magic. Byakuya presses his ears, and Satsuki hastily informs him that the baby is still asleep, so there is nothing to worry about. The main character is glad that the wolf has visited her and asks if he will keep her company. He agrees. Soon, Satsuki is riding on Byakuya, checking her tablet. Then she notices with surprise that the map does not show the way forward. It only shows the territory that the girl has acquired. The wolf warns that they are about to leave the forest. A whole valley spreads out before the companions. The main character admires the open space. She curiously asks Byakuya if anyone lives on this plain. The wolf pauses and replies that monster hunters can be found here, but they live somewhere to the west or north. Satsuki realizes that there are people in this world too. Now the girl really wants to meet them. She is curious about what they are like. Byakuya just glances at her silently. Satsuki wants to see what is on the other side of the house. She asks the wolf, and he agrees. Byakuya warns her that it is a long way and advises her to hold on tight. The girl barely manages to grab the wolf's scruff. Then he takes off. The main character, shouting over the whistling wind, asks Byakuya to slow down. He turned around and asks if he is late. Satsuki replies in the negative, puzzled. Then the wolf leaps off the ground with a powerful jump, and soon lands on all four paws. He announces that they have arrived at their destination. Byakuya turns to the silent girl. She is lying on the wolf's back, clinging tightly to him. Byakuya asks if everything is okay. With difficulty pulling her face away from the fur, the main character replies that everything is fine. She climbs down from the wolf and, staggering, grabs its side. Byakuya apologizes. The wolf and the girl approach the edge and look into the distance. Satsuki sees that the forest ahead is either covered in a strange fog or is black itself. Byakuya explains that it is all because of the miasma. The main character asks again in confusion. The wolf explains that it comes from monsters, such as the giant black snake that once attacked the girl. Byakuya adds that because of the miasma, spirits leave these places and the land becomes empty and barren. The wolf ends the story by saying that it will take decades, or, in a worst case, centuries, to restore this territory. After thinking for a moment, Satsuki asks if they could go down to these places. He agrees, and the main character takes her place on his back again. Soon, the wolf and the girl are standing in the middle of a dried-up forest. Byakuya remarks that it is a terrible sight. Satsuki looks around and realizes that all the trees here have died. The main character turns to the wolf and asks if it will be possible to revive these lands, if the girl takes on the restoration of the territory. He himself does not know. Satsuki turns on her tablet and, snorting, realizes that these places also belong to her. Byakuya thinks that since the main character is the favorite of the spirits, it is possible to revive the territory. The girl adds that she does not want to see her mountain in such a state. Satsuki announces that she will take on the restoration. The main character approaches one of the dead trees. She selects a function on her tablet and realizes with surprise that the trunk is unusable. Gradually, she deals with the trees. Satsuki and Byakuya reach the end of her territory, guided by the map on the tablet. The main character decides that this is enough for now, as the KP consumption is very high. The girl thinks that since she has cleared the area, she can plant something. Looking at the map again, Satsuki says it would be better to retreat a little and build a base. Once they reach the right spot, the main character decides to start by building a fence. Using her tablet, she surrounds the territory with a wooden fence. Before that, Satsuki decides to set up the inside of the fence. If she had built the fence on the outside, she would have spent too many points. The girl also builds a shed with a door so that she can shelter from the rain and wind in case of bad weather. Satsuki remembers the toilet just in time. She is very lucky to have a portable one in storage. She can't do without a toilet. The main character announces that the base in the middle of the dead land is ready. The girl is going to try to plant something. She is not at all sure if anything can grow in such poor soil. Satsuki ponders what would be best to plant. She could choose hardy grasses that always grow quickly. However, then she would never be able to get rid of them. Another option would be to buy seedlings and try planting those. In addition, she still needs to pave and tidy up the road from the base to the house. The main character decides to discuss everything with Inari at their next meeting. Byakuya offers his help. He can carry everything she needs to the base. The girl thanks the wolf for his offer. Then Byakuya begins to hesitate. He lowers his ears and reminds her about the dragon. Satsuki understands what he is getting at and says that everything is fine. She will ask the wolf for help only when the dragon is asleep at home. Byakuya apologizes abruptly and falls silent. The main character asks, confused, what's wrong? The wolf says that a loud cry is coming from the house. Meanwhile, the dragon bursts into bitter tears and howls. Satsuki, waving her arms in horror, realizes that she has completely forgotten about the baby. She urgently needs to return home. Byakuya offers to carry her. The dragon climbs onto Satsuki's head. She tries to calm him down, saying that she will only go to the pantry and come back right away. But the baby squeaks indignantly and has no intention of getting off. The girl tries to take him off. The dragon is full of energy that day. The main character resigns herself and puts the little one in her backpack. He clings to her shoulder, peeking out of the bag. Satsuki asks him to listen to her, at least a little. It's time to prepare for further exploration of the land. The main character comes out of the pantry. She looks at her tablet. She needs to buy more gas for the stove. There's a kitchen in the log cabin, but there is no stove, and it is clearly not worth lighting a fire in the house. Satsuki wonders how the locals live and cook in this world. The girl's attention is drawn to a car pulling up. The window rolls down, and Inari's smiling face appears, greeting the main character. Satsuki says hello and approaches the newcomer. She asks what brought the fox god here. He replies that he has finished his declaration and has come to report. Inari notices the dragon and adds that this little one is more important now. He asks if the baby has hatched from the egg. The main character says that it has. The fox god frowns. He approaches the dragon, noting that the baby has very strong magic. The girl immediately confirms this. She explains that because of this, the family of white wolves went to live on top of the mountain. Satsuki begs Inari to use his power and do something about it. With a nervous smile, the fox god simply replies that it is impossible. The dragon frowns and begins to struggle. The main character tries to calm him down, but the baby pulls her hair. Inari advises the dragon not to cause Satsuki any unnecessary trouble. Bringing his face close to the baby's snout, the fox god adds that such behavior will upset his master. The dragon instantly calms down and climbs back into the backpack. The main character sighs heavily and admits that it's like this every day. She's already quite tired. Inari notes that it's really not easy. Satsuki asks if she can give the baby a name. He freezes, waiting for an answer. The fox god replies in the affirmative. After a moment of silence, the girl asks if the dragon will become her familiar. Inari says that if the baby wants to, it will. Noticing the dragon's eyes shining with delight, the fox god thinks that it will surely become the main character's familiar. Sighing, Satsuki says disappointedly that she knew it would be so. The dragon's eyes widen and its mouth opens wide. Inari remarks in surprise that the girl doesn't seem to like it. She replies that dragons are difficult to take care of. The fox god says that there will be many benefits. Dragons can breathe fire. Moreover, they are superior beings who can scare away monsters with their mere appearance. Satsuki agrees with Inari. But no matter how useful a dragon may be, it is not right for it to live without a name. The main character thinks about the options. The baby looks at her expectantly. The girl says that since the dragon is black, it should be called Kuro. He frowns. The fox god notices that the baby is unhappy. Satsuki thinks about the name Nero, but the dragon doesn't like that option either. After thinking it over carefully, the main character suggests naming the baby Noir. He literally lights up. The girl turns around in surprise. A bright flash of light floods the dragon. Inari and Satsuki cover their eyes. The main character already understands what this means. The fox god confirms her guess. The dragon has become the girl's familiar, and very quickly at that. Then Noir says Satsuki's name. The main character has no choice but to accept it. She offers to be friends with the dragon. He is delighted. The girl adds that as soon as Noir learns to breathe fire, he will help her with cooking. The dragon is not at all confident in his abilities. Inari wonders what kind of dishes will be cooked over the fire of a magical creature. Satsuki believes that the food will be very ordinary. She explains that there's a kitchen in the log cabin, but no cooking equipment. The fox god asks in surprise. Satsuki shows Inari the kitchen and the empty space reserved for a gas stove. The fox god notes that there is no gas in this world. He adds that Ignos probably just copied the design from the real world. The main character explains that she currently uses a portable stove, but changing the gas cylinders all the time is a hassle. She asks if there is a better option. After thinking for a moment, Inari suggests a so-called magic stove. Initially, it was made only for adventurers, but now wealthy families use it every day. The device runs on magic stones, so it is also suitable for people with low mana. Satsuki happily announces that she has one magic stone. When Inari asks, she explains that she got it from a split-horned rabbit that Yuki brought her. The girl shows the magic stone to the fox god, and he confirms that it is exactly what is needed. The main character sings out, urging everyone to buy the magic tile immediately. However, Inari destroys all her dreams by informing her that this is not yet possible. Turning around, Satsuki asks why. The fox god explains that in order to make purchases in this world, one needs local currency. In addition, the magic tile itself is not cheap. The main character sighs in disappointment. Inari adds instructively that the magic tile is sold exclusively in more or less large cities, and Satsuki doesn't even know where they are. The fox god asks how the girl plans to get there. She says gloomily that she will manage. Inari informs her that she must first build a road to the city. The main character sighs sadly. She asks for a map so she can see the area outside her plot. Her words surprise the fox god. He begins to explain something, but then asks if Satsuki can download a map application. The girl checks and answers in the negative. Inari says it's because the total KP is insufficient. The main character becomes discouraged. There are still not enough points. Suddenly, the KP number begins to increase on its own right before Satsuki's eyes. Noticing the girl's expression, the fox god asks what happened. The main character explains that the points are increasing on their own. Inari asks her for her tablet. He checks the KP accrual history and breaks into a smile. The thing is, the number of spirits has increased. Satsuki asks if that means the more spirits there are, the more points she gets. The fox god says yes and give her back her tablet. Inari explains that when the land is improved, spirits are attracted, which enrich the soil, causing points to accumulate. The girl asks if KP is added automatically as long as there are spirits. He says that is the case. The main character is delighted. The fox god frowns and asks if Satsuki even looks at the KP details. She hesitates. Inari asks how things are going with the development of the mountain. The girl says she wanted to discuss something. Noir Yun Ludli. The main character shows the map to the fox god. She explains that she is now opening up the north side of the mountain. She needs a way to get from the log cabin to the base in the scorched clearing. She doesn't want to use her car, Satsuki, because the rocks will scratch the paintwork. Besides, it's inconvenient and awkward to ask Byakuya to drive her to the base every time. Inari offers her a motorcycle. The girl agrees, but clarifies that she has a regular driver's license, so a 50 cubic centimeters motorcycle will do. The fox god remarks that it will be a surreal sight, Satsuki riding around another world on a motorcycle. Inari adds that if a used one is okay with the main character, he will quickly find a suitable one. The fox god is going to ask a biker regular. The girl agrees. The very next day, to Satsuki's surprise, Inari brings her a scooter. The fox god explains that his biker friend has a niece. She just bought a car and was going to sell her scooter. The main character examines the bike and notices that it is almost new. Inari explains that there was simply no room for the scooter. He adds that the cost of transportation will be deducted from Satsuki's next paycheck, and she agrees. The fox god also brought a gift for the main character. The girl thanks him warmly, saying that she needs seeds. Inari asks her again, puzzled. The main character explains that she is currently germinating various seeds. Satsuki shows the fox god a flowering tree. He asks in amazement, did it really grow from an umebashi seed? The girl nods happily. Amazed, Inari asks if she really planted seeds from canned cherries. The main character answers affirmatively again. She adds that it's just incredible. Satsuki simply tried it, and the trees grew. With a twisted face, the fox god exclaims that this would not happen under normal circumstances. Now, it is the main character's turn to be surprised. Inari suggests that it's because Satsuki, the former saint, ate the seeds. That's how the pits got blessed. Usually, after cooking, pickling, or heat treatment, the sprouts no longer germinate. The girl admits that this is indeed strange. Not only did the seed sprout, but it also grew into a tree. She adds that the other world is simply amazing. Inari has no choice but to agree. Inside the log cabin. Meanwhile, Noir is asleep, curled up on her pillow. In the yard, Satsuki has already picked up her tools. Her gaze keeps returning to the scooter. She can't wait to get on the bike and try it out. However, first the main character needs to make her way to the base. The girl mows the grass. Then she uses the cut-down function on the trees. The main character puts the stumps in her inventory and then disposes of them. This is how she slowly makes her way deeper into the forest. Satsuki is happy that the spirits accumulate points on their own, but she still needs to find something to sell. After all, she will need gold to buy a magic tile. Suddenly, a sound catches Satsuki's attention. She turns around sharply, but the road behind her is empty. The girl takes off her protective glasses in confusion. The main character thinks she hears someone laughing. She hears it again and calls out to the stranger. Then Satsuki sees many shining spheres around her. They fill the entire sky. The girl does not understand what this light is, but she understood the words. Someone was happy that their beloved mistress had finally noticed them. The girl asked again in surprise. She still doesn't understand what is happening, and she fearfully covered her ears so she wouldn't hear the voices. Suddenly, someone abruptly ordered everyone to disperse. The glowing spheres stopped surrounding the main character, and she realized who her savior was, Byakuya. The wolf asked if Satsuki was okay. She threw herself into Byakuya's arms, thanking him for his help. The wolf muttered something about spirits. The main character's eyes widened in amazement when she heard about magical creatures. The spirits apologized profusely, explaining that they simply couldn't contain their joy when they realized that their mistress had noticed them. The girl, looking at the spheres in shock, asked if they were really magical creatures. They confirmed her guess in unison. Byakuya asked if Satsuki could now see spirits. The main character answered in the affirmative, but explained that the images were too vague, although voices could be heard coming from the glowing balls. Now the girl understood what spirits looked like. She remembered Shirode's words about the noise coming from magical creatures and decided that they were being too loud again. Satsuki thought it would be a good idea to expand this place. She resumed mowing the grass. The spirits cheerfully supported her, saying that there was very little left to do. Byakuya watched her work. The girl, taking a break from her work, asked them to stop calling her beloved mistress. They were indignant. The main character added that she had a name and asked them to call her by it. After a moment of silence, the magical creatures agreed. They began chanting the girl's name and did not stop until Byakuya barked at them. Finally, Satsuki and her companions reached the gate to the base. The girl took off her protective goggles, delighted that they had reached their destination. But then the spirits suddenly announced that something was wrong. The main character asked in confusion what was wrong. After thinking for a moment, the spirits said that the smell of miasma still lingered in the area. Satsuki asked sympathetically if it was really that unpleasant. The spirits assured her that the main character's scent was perfectly fine. The girl opened the gate and invited everyone to come inside. As soon as the magical creatures entered the area, they immediately reported that everything was fine here. The spirits' words delighted Satsuki. She couldn't imagine what she would have done if the situation on the grounds had been bad. Suddenly, the spirits announced that water had appeared on the property. The main character turned around in amazement. She froze when she noticed a small puddle. She asked the spirits to wait a moment and hurriedly grabbed her tablet. With the help of the gadget, the girl drilled a hole and made a pond. So it appeared on the base site, and Satsuki got to know the spirits. Satsuki knelt down and breathed a sigh of relief. She was very frightened after all. The spirits talked among themselves. One sternly reprimanded the others, saying that they must not touch the lady. They were all ready to do anything for their beloved Satsuki. Meanwhile, the girl looks at the pond. She is quite happy that it suddenly appeared. Now it will be possible to plant plants in this place too. The main character has a base in the middle of the scorched earth, so she can really start developing the territory. Satsuki has been conducting experiments on the parched land for the past few days and has discovered something. Inside the fence, where the girl leveled the ground using an expander, the plants are growing quite normally. However, outside the fence, the soil is contaminated. Nothing survives, even if watered properly. Even the most hardy grasses couldn't break through, much to the disappointment of the main character. Satsuki would very much like to level the area outside the fence, but this action requires a lot of points, so is not available at the moment. The girl decides that she needs to find a way to save KP. The main character believes that it's all about the soil. She conducts a small experiment. She plants grass in a pot, but uses soil from the garden. The result makes Satsuki jump for joy. As soon as the girl changed the soil, the plants began to grow instantly. The main character is satisfied. Ordinary seedlings and grasses will take root without spending points. It's time to use the supplies stored in the inventory. The seedlings that Satsuki grew from the seeds of the fruit she ate are put to use. The main character now understands something very important. The trees that grow from the fruit eaten by the girl not only bear fruit, but also have a purifying effect. Satsuki hopes that this action will also restore the earth. The main character remembers the advice that everything needs to be tried in practice. She encourages the plants to grow faster. The spirits promise to look after the herbs, and the girl replies that she is counting on them. Since then, Satsuki has been eating umebashi every day to get the seeds and then sow them. The main character plans to plant plum trees all over the scorched land. However, if Inari finds out about this, he will once again look at her disapprovingly. The main character is busy connecting equipment inside the log cabin. She connects a solar panel to a charger. Looking happily at the result, the girl announces that the refrigerator is installed. She leaves the room feeling satisfied. Now she will have cold drinks and ice cream. Satsuki is going to buy barley tea in bags. She asks the spirit of light to take care of charging, and he immediately gets to work. Going outside, the main character stops in surprise. She sees that the cherries are already ripe. The berries are so large that they are ready to eat. With her hands on her hips, the girl looks up at the tall tree. She wonders how she will gather the entire harvest. Satsuki could use a ladder. Moreover, she will definitely need it in the future. She may have to work on the roof or at a height. The only problem is that the main character is unlikely to be able to bring a ladder in her small car. The girl thinks about asking Inari for advice. She is already reaching for her car keys. Suddenly, someone calls her name. Turning around, Satsuki sees that Noir is already awake. He greets the main character. Picking up the dragon, the girl explains that she needs to leave on business and asks the baby to stay alone for a while. Without listening to Satsuki, Noir announces that he wants to go with her. Apologizing, the main character says that only she can enter the human world, no matter how much she wants to take the dragon with her. He snorts, hanging his head. The girl already thinks that she will not be going anywhere today. But to her utter amazement, Noir obediently says that he can wait a little longer. He adds that he has heard that the ancient dragon will arrive soon, so the little one will be able to wait a little longer. Satsuki smiles tensely. Noir asks the girl not to be late and to come back as soon as possible. The main character stops him. She asks if it's true that the ancient dragon will come to their house. The little boy replies that it's very likely. Stammering, Satsuki asks when it will happen. The dragon casually says he doesn't know. The girl freezes with her mouth open. Satsuki drives up to the Inari campsite and jumps out of the car with a scream. She announces that an ancient dragon is heading their way. The fox god stops her with a wave of his hands. He asks her not to make so much noise and not to say the words ancient dragon too loudly. The girl sighs embarrassedly and apologizes. Inari nervously remarks that anything can be expected from a snake, so it really could show up. The main character anxiously asks if ancient dragons are really that huge. Instead of giving a direct answer, the fox god asks if Satsuki has seen the recently released movie about monsters. She says confusedly that she has only seen the advertisement. Inari announces that the ancient dragon is about the same size as the monster in the movie. The snake still has wings, so will most likely fly in. The main character's eyes widen. Nevertheless, the fox god hastens to reassure his interlocutor. He advises her to simply ask Noir to tell the ancient dragon not to come in his enormous form. The girl asks if the snake can change its size. Inari says that the dragon is called ancient for a reason, so it can certainly do that. Satsuki wonders if the snake is too incredible a creature. The fox god remarks that the main character herself is an incredible saint. She asks again, embarrassed. Satsuki says she will definitely ask Noir to pass on the message as soon as she returns home. Inari is sure that there will be no problem with that. The main character says she needs a ladder and asks if the fox god can help her with that. She adds that she cannot transport the ladder in her car. Inari says he will help her. He suggests that she consider buying a small truck in the future. The girl reminds him that she has only recently become the owner of a scooter, so money is tight for now. The fox god notes that if a used truck would suit Satsuki, he could look for one. He adds that it is possible to buy one on credit. With a grunt, the main character admits that sooner or later she will need a truck. She enthusiastically says that she is counting on Inari. He agrees. Satsuki rides her scooter to the base along the road that has been built. The girl enters the site and looks around. She notes that the plants on the base are growing well, although not as fast, of course, as on the plot near the log cabin. The main character thinks this is because there are not enough spirits here yet. Satsuki walks through the gate with a shovel in her hands. She digs a hole for another seedling. The girl has already planted several small trees. She thinks that this is where the border of her plot ends. The main character is quite happy that when the seedlings grow, they will form a beautiful plum alley. Buried in her tablet, she adds that Inari has no idea what has become of the plums he gave her. Satsuki doesn't notice someone watching her from behind a tree trunk. The stranger watches the girl with a frown. The main character, still looking at her tablet, is about to return home. Satsuki looks at the map on her tablet. So far, she has managed to fill her entire plot with plum seedlings. Now, the main character is going to bring water from the pond here. Suddenly, the girl hears some unfamiliar speech and hurriedly turns around. Behind her stands a man with his fists clenched tightly. He begins to shout something aggressively and rushes forward. Satsuki realizes with fear that she is facing a stranger who is extremely angry about something. The worst thing is that the main character does not even know what he is trying to say to her. The man's face is contorted with rage, his gaze completely insane. The girl is sure of only one thing. She must not let this stranger see her. Satsuki hurriedly runs to the gate of the base. She yells at the man not to even think about approaching her. The main character runs onto the grounds and rushes to her scooter. With trembling hands, she inserts the key. As she is about to leave, the girl turns around. To her surprise, Satsuki sees that there is no one behind her. She realizes with confusion that the man is not following her. Haku and Yuki run up to the main character, looking worried. The wolf asks what happened and if someone was chasing the girl. Her brother bares his teeth and growls. Frightened, Satsuki replies that some strange guy was chasing her, but she doesn't know where he went. Here, Yuki notices a stranger climbing onto a rock. Haku doesn't understand what he is doing because it is high up there. His sister guesses that the man cannot enter because of the barrier. The main character asks in surprise. Yuki reminds her that the trees she planted create a protective barrier. Satsuki had completely forgotten about this and was only thinking about the purifying effect. Then the man rushes forward and starts punching the barrier, shouting something furiously at the same time. Yuki realizes that the stranger is trying to break through the protective layer. Satsuki cries out. Haku says they will chase the stranger away and rushes forward. He angrily orders the man to leave. The man raises his hands in fear. He turns around and hurriedly leaves. The wolf happily reports that the man has fled. Haku, still bristling, asks what they will do now. He asks if they should chase after the stranger. Yuki says they cannot leave the main character alone. She rushes towards the wolves. She hugs her brother and sister tightly, thanking them for saving her. Haku, his nose proudly turned up, says that chasing him away is easier than easy. Yuki remarks that it is strange that people have appeared in these lands at all. Satsuki asks in surprise. The she-wolf explains that Byakuya said that all humans live far beyond this territory. There are no human settlements nearby at all. Satsuki asks fearfully who this man is then. The brother and sister say they have no idea. The main character begs the white wolves to take her to the log cabin. They don't need to be persuaded. The girl rides a scooter, and Haku and Yuki run on either side of her. The wolves notice that Satsuki is fast, but very noisy. Night falls, and stars light up the sky. Satsuki sits at the table with the lamp on and looks thoughtfully at her tablet. Opposite her, Noir sleeps peacefully. The main character taps the screen, completely immersed in her thoughts. She wonders if all the inhabitants of this world are such savages. The girl remembers that Inari said that magic tiles are only sold in decent cities. So, it turns out that there is something wrong with the stranger. Closing her eyes, Satsuki remembers how the stranger banged on the barrier, trying unsuccessfully to get into the area. She realizes that something must be done, or something dangerous might happen. The main character sighs wearily and leans back. Noir wakes up, approaches her, and asks if she is okay. She replies that she was just thinking about how to protect the mountain. The dragon proudly pokes his chest with his paw and declares that as long as he is here, Satsuki has nothing to worry about. The girl smiles, picks Noir up in her arms, and thanks him. He asks her to lie down on him. The main character becomes gloomy again. She cannot get the thoughts of what happened out of her head. Satsuki remembers that on the way to the base, there's a place with a dead tree. Nothing is planted there, which means that the area is completely defenseless, without any barriers. The girl has no more seedlings left. The simplest option would be to put up a wooden fence to create a protective barrier. However, this requires too many materials and points, and the main character seriously doubts that her supplies will be enough. She strokes Noir. Satsuki picks up her tablet. She needs to find something that will cost less. She looks for something that resembles a fence. Then she sees the perfect option, a garden fence. In the morning, the main character leaves her house. She tentatively puts up the fence she has chosen. The girl reads the information and is satisfied. The garden fence, erected by a former saint, serves as a full-fledged barrier and does not require significant expenses. Satsuki thinks this is a suitable solution. First, the main character decides to fence off the log cabin. Then she puts up a fence along the road to the base by the dead tree. Satsuki gradually walks around the designated area, placing the garden fence. Finally, she reaches the gate. Stopping, the main character announces that the base by the dead tree is now complete. She looks at the gate with concern. Entering the room, the girl notices that the stranger has not reappeared. Then someone calls out to her from behind. Satsuki screams and jumps up and down in fear. Recognizing Byakuya, the girl exhales calmly and says that she was scared. An embarrassed Byakuya apologizes. He lowers his head and explains that Haku and Yuki told him about yesterday. The wolf asks if the main character is okay. Satsuki begins to describe how everything happened. The stranger suddenly started shouting something and chased after the girl. The man looked quite disheveled and frightened the main character. She adds that she therefore decided to surround her entire territory with a fence with a protective barrier. Byakuya notes that this is a sensible idea. He says that starting tomorrow, he will send Haku and the others to accompany the girl. The wolf understands that Satsuki is still uncomfortable being alone. She thanks him warmly and hugs his muzzle. Byakuya himself is going to go in search of the strange stranger. The main character agrees, but she asks the wolf not to get himself into trouble. He replies in the affirmative. Byakuya notices that the sun is about to set and suggests returning home. Satsuki does not argue and heads for the exit. The wolf turns around thoughtfully. He looks at the mountain. He wonders what kind of person comes to these places. The next day, the main character is accompanied by Haku and Yuki. The wolf cub announces that he could chase the stranger away on his own. Satsuki, without arguing, explains that it is just a precaution. Yuki adds that it is better to always be safe than sorry, and the girl agrees with her, adding that there may be many people. Haku is still confident that he could defeat anyone. Satsuki and her companions walk along the road, and the girl sets up a fence. After putting up another section of the fence, the main character notices that they have completed about half of it. The wolves sniff the air anxiously. Haku suggests returning home. Satsuki asks why. The wolf cub explains that thunder can be heard, and it looks like it's about to rain. The next day, the main character, holding Noir in her arms, approaches the window. It is pouring rain outside. Noticing how heavy the rain is, the girl realizes that it will obviously be impossible to install the garden fence today. Satsuki turns to Noir and asks what he wants to do. He suggests sleeping. Suddenly, something catches the attention of the main character and the dragon, causing them to look out the window again. The girl asks what it is. Noir recognizes Inari and calls him an old man. He drove up in his car and tried to shout to Satsuki through the noise of the rain. Soon, the fox god is sitting in the house. The main character brings him a towel. He wipes his face, noticing how wet he is. He says he brought the ladder Satsuki wanted, but didn't expect to get caught in such a downpour. The girl thanks him, saying that Inari has helped her out a lot. The fox god waves her off and adds that he has more news. Inari has managed to find a good option for a light truck. He suggests going to see it right now. The main character shyly reminds him about the budget. The fox god advises her not to worry about money. He notes that good things sell out very quickly, so it's worth hurrying. In the real world, there is no rain. Inari gasps when she hears that Satsuki met someone in that area. The girl admits that it was a real nightmare. The stranger was huge, dressed in some kind of rags, and even chased after her. In addition, he kept shouting something in an unfamiliar language. This moment alarms the fox god. He asks if the main character really did not understand the stranger's speech. Satsuki confirms this and adds that she won't be able to go shopping in another store. Inari thought that the former saint would definitely be able to do it. He remarks aloud that they could communicate with gestures. She replies that she is not abroad after all. The fox god anxiously asks if the main character is okay. The girl explains that Haku and Yuki chased the stranger away. Inari is going to discuss what happened with Ignos. Satsuki smiles and asks if his advice will help her in this situation. The main character says that she is now surrounding the mountain with a protective barrier as a security measure. The fox god decides that this will suffice for now. Besides, Byakuya and the other white wolves are nearby. Noir will also soon become a combat unit, once she grows up a little more. Moreover, when the ancient dragon arrives, there will be no one left who wants to lay claim to the mountain. Byakuya, meanwhile, sits on a rock in the pouring rain. He watches the human settlement. One of the men is leading children tied together with a rope somewhere. He looks more closely. The white wolf realizes that he is seeing beastkin children. The little boy turns around, as if sensing the gaze. He looks very tired. All the other children are exhausted too. Byakuya never imagined that such dangerous people lived in this place. Inari talks to Ignos. The latter notes that no one could have imagined that the former saint would forget even her language after her rebirth. The fox god replies that it is serious. He adds that Satsuki has already encountered the locals and almost got into trouble because she did not know the language. Ignos asks again. Inari believes that the main character most likely encountered bandits. However, a protective barrier has now been placed over the entire mountain, so everything should be fine. After thinking it over, Ignos gives Inari a translation device to pass on to the girl. This device is an ear cuff that not only allows you to understand the language, but also to speak it yourself as soon as you put it on. Ignos adds that he will also create a translator app, which Inari should also tell Satsuki about. The god from another world notes that an ancient dragon will soon appear, so there will be no time for boredom. The fox god says he only hopes that they will be able to avoid unnecessary conflicts. Inari hands the main character a cuff, which she puts on immediately. He explains that with the help of the device, the girl will be able to speak in a foreign language. Satsuki happily thanks him. The fox god adds that Ignos has promised to release a translator app soon, but it will cost points to download. The girl replies that she understands everything. Inari advises her to save up KP. Then Satsuki remembers something and asks if the fox god got the price of the pickup truck right. After all, it's a nice four-wheel drive model. He replies that everything is fine because he just lent her his company's truck. He adds that the girl should use the pickup as she sees fit and not worry about anything. The main character says that Inari has really helped her out. She admits, somewhat embarrassed, that she feels a little awkward. He waves it off and asks her to consider it compensation for the risk. Satsuki asks again. Then she remembers all the dangers that threaten her, the ancient dragon, monsters, and some other aggressive stranger. It seems that one pickup truck is not enough compensation. Inari interrupts her thoughts and asks what's wrong. The main character hastily replies that everything is fine. The fox god leaves, and Satsuki waves him goodbye. Entering the log cabin, she puts on her jacket and tells Noir that she is going to install the rest of the fence. She asks the dragon to stay home alone and relax. The girl is already putting on her cap when Noir suddenly calls out to her. The main character turns around and is shocked to see that the dragon is flying. He asks to go with her. Satsuki claps her hands, admiring Noir. He announces that now he will also be able to protect the girl. She reminds him that Haku and the other wolves have already arrived. But Noir, unwilling to listen, grabs her by the head and declares that he is going with her. The main character asks if he is really going with her. The dragon readily confirms his decision. Byakuya, meanwhile, watches the area from his hiding place in the bushes. He turns around when he notices Haku. Haku reports that there is some movement on the mountain. The wolf gets up from the ground and orders his son to stay with Satsuki. Haku replies that Noir is with her. He complains that the dragon's magical power is simply unbearable. Byakuya advises him to get used to it. Otherwise, the wolf will not be able to trust his son to protect the main character. Haku Ovintlu Agres. In the parched territory, a whole squad of armed men has gathered. Among them is the man who is chasing Satsuki. Now he's explaining something to one of his companions. The people do not know that white wolves are watching them closely from the rocks. Led by Yuki, Byakuya arrives and calls out to his daughter, asking what is going on. She reports that the group is heading for Mount Satsuki. The wolf asks how things are going with the human nest. Yuki replies that there are only a few guards left, whom they can handle on their own. Byakuya is going to start with the armed men. The wolf says he would have left them alone if they hadn't paid attention to them, but now it's too late. The bald man swings his hammer, and his partner throws up his hands in confusion. The rest of the squad rushes forward. Squinting, Byakuya announces that it's time to hunt. The bristling white wolves spring into action. They deftly run down the cliff. People turn around, noticing the danger. The white wolves are very close, and the men try to run away. Meanwhile, Satsuki looks up from her tablet when she hears a noise. Moore asks what happened. The main character replies that she thought she heard a scream. The dragon suggests that it was a bird. The girl is not at all sure that a bird could make such a piercing cry. Moore replies that he does not know. He mentally addresses Haku, who is hiding nearby. The dragon asks him to tell Byakuya to get rid of the smell of blood. He adds that the eerie voice was simply disgusting, and if the soundproofing had worked even a second later, Satsuki would have understood everything. Haku promises to carry out the task. The wolf cub sighs. He regrets that the main character simply attracts all kinds of suspicious personalities to herself. Satsuki finally puts up the last part of the fence. Moore happily reports this. He joyfully raises his paws in the air. The main character suggests going home now that the work is done. She adds that now there is no need to worry. The dragon instantly agrees, already anticipating dinner. Night falls. Yuki and Byakuya stand next to the wolf lying on the ground. The she-wolf anxiously asks the sick wolf to hang on. She does not understand why such a minor wound causes the wolf so much pain. In search of an answer, Yuki turns to Byakuya. Frowning, he says he doesn't know. He suggests the humans may have used poison. The wolf is about to go immediately to find an antidote. Meanwhile, in the forest, Satsuki cries out excitedly. She calls Noir over, having found an unusually large blueberry. The girl examines the cluster of berries. She had no idea that blueberries could be so large. The main character is already looking forward to making jam from the ripe berries. She can't wait to harvest them. She stands on tiptoe and, reaching for the cluster, picks the berries. The basket is already full, so Satsuki puts them in a bag. Using her tablet, she sends the harvest to storage. The girl sternly calls out to Noir, demanding that he stop eating and help her. He gobbles up berry after berry and says that they are sweet and sour. The main character remembers that the plums should also be ripe by now. Satsuki closes her eyes and imagines making blueberry jam and plum syrup. Her diet is becoming much more varied. She looks at the trees on the other side of the river. The main character notes with satisfaction that the mulberries are also ripe. She doesn't notice the wolf rapidly descending to the ground. Byakuya, who is behind her, asks her to lend him her strength. Satsuki jumps up in surprise and asks what happened. He informs her that Yuki's husband has been injured. The main character asks again in fear, only now realizing that the she-wolf has a partner. Byakuya asks her to come with him immediately. He explains that they don't have enough strength to do anything. The girl promises to get ready in a moment. Yuki sits there, leaning over the motionless wolf, surrounded by other animals. She turns around and sees Satsuki hurriedly jumping off Byakuya's back. The girl asks anxiously if Yuki is okay. She explains that the small wound the wolf received yesterday has gotten worse. The antidote did not bring any relief. The main character promises to do everything in her power and kneels in front of the wounded wolf, taking out her tablet. She asks the wolf how he is, but receives no answer. Satsuki announces that the wound needs to be washed first. The wolf clenches his teeth tightly. Then he suddenly lunges at the frightened girl. Yuki presses the wounded wolf's muzzle to the ground. She asks sternly what he wanted to do to Satsuki. He no longer struggles. The main character thanks the she-wolf. The girl warns that it might hurt a little, but asks the wounded man to bear with it for a moment. Finally, she puts a bandage on the wolf's paw. However, Satsuki notices that it still hurts. She doesn't know what else to do to help. Unexpectedly, Moore advises the main character to feed the wolf the blueberry she picked today. The white wolves and the girl herself look at the dragon in confusion. Satsuki asks him to clarify what he means, but he only urges her on. The main character hurriedly takes the blueberries out of the storage. She shoves her hand with the berries into the wolf's mouth, praying that he won't bite her. The girl strokes the wounded wolf's throat until it swallows the blueberry. The bloodstained bandage on its paw suddenly clears. The wolf opens its eyes slightly, and then gets up from the ground. A joyful Satsuki realizes that the wounded wolf has been healed. Yuki licks the wolf's cheek. The girl remembers hearing that blueberries are good for the eyes, but in this world, everything seems to be different. Noir replies that this is not the case at all. The blueberries are special because they grew on Satsuki's land and were picked by her hands, which is why the curse placed on the wolf was lifted. The main character asks again, but then Byakuya calls out to her. He informs her that there are other wounded people. The girl follows the white wolf, and they approach the entrance to the cave. Byakuya explains that the wounded are inside, but it is too dark there. He suggests that Satsuki ask the Spirit of Light for help. The main character agrees. She politely asks the spirit to give her some light. The spirit tells her to rely on him. Byakuya and Satsuki walk through the cave, now illuminated. The girl looks around, wondering what kind of place this is. She notices a terrible smell. The main character thinks that it is clearly not worth breathing through her nose here. Byakuya calls out to her, showing her where to go. It is so dark ahead that nothing can be seen. Satsuki asks the spirit of light for help again. Now the girl sees a lattice gate in front of her. The sight that opens up before her amazes the main character. Behind the bars, children are sitting and lying on the ground. Satsuki asks what they're doing there. The main character asks Byakuya to break the cage. He gets rid of the bars, and the debris flies in all directions. Satsuki looks inside anxiously and asks if everything is okay. The children rise from their seats, staring intently at the girl. The main character apologizes for scaring them and asks them not to be afraid of her, because she wants to save them. The boy looks at her questioningly and tugs at his ears. Satsuki waves her hand, repeating that the children should not be afraid of her. The boy moves away. The girl does not understand why they are behaving this way. Either she is so scary, or the captives are afraid of Byakuya. The wolf explains that the children simply do not understand her words. The main character is embarrassed. She hurriedly puts the cuff on her ear. Satsuki leans forward and asks if they understand her now. The boy's expression changes. Stammering, he asks, "Is the girl Mr. Fenrir's mistress?" She explains that Byakuya is her familiar. The boy looks shocked. He thinks it's incredible to have Fenrir as a familiar. The main character asks the boy his name. He replies that it is Gazu. Satsuki helps him up and suggests they leave this place. The boy follows her, but suddenly he stops. He looks down at his feet in confusion. The girl asks what's wrong. He replies confusedly that for some reason he cannot leave. Byakuya suggests that the children are under a seal of obedience. The wolf explains to the puzzled Satsuki that it is a curse that prevents slaves from escaping or disobeying. He believes that the seal is carved somewhere on the prisoners' bodies. The main character is horrified by such treatment of children. Byakuya points to the back of the boy's head. He lifts his hair, revealing a mark on his neck. The wolf says that this is the mark of submission because it always gives off a special, unpleasant smell. Satsuki thinks for a moment. She asks Byakuya if it is really a curse. He answers in the affirmative. The girl suggests trying the blueberries that healed the wolf back then. Byakuya agrees, adding that they are powerful enough to remove a curse of this level. However, there is a problem. As soon as the seal is removed, the spellcaster will notice it. The main character realizes that people may then come for the children. Gazu reports that the children were told that the slave trader would arrive soon. They were all captured, kidnapped, and brought to a cage. He bursts into tears, explaining that after that, the children will be handed over to the slave trader. Outraged, Satsuki shouts an expletive, surprising the wolf and the boy. She says that children cannot be turned into slaves. The girl says that they will leave the cave immediately. She hands Gazu a blueberry and tells him to eat it. He obediently takes it and pops it into his mouth. He swallows the berry, and the seal disappears from his neck. The main character makes sure that this is the case and adds that now the boy can leave the cage. She thinks to herself that blueberries are simply omnipotent. Now, it is necessary to distribute the berries to all the other children. Gazu volunteers to help Satsuki. Together, they feed blueberries to the remaining captives. The children manage to leave the cage, but the main character has to carry one very weak little girl in her arms. Satsuki climbs on a Byakuya's back and puts two girls with her. She asks Gazu if the other children are sure they can run away on their own. He says that the berries have given them enough strength, so they will be fine. The girl informs him that the journey is quite long, but the boy insists. For him, it would be sacrilegious to ride Fenrir. Byakuya notes that beastkin are more resilient than ordinary humans, so the children will be fine. The main character gives in, but feeds the children one more berry each and orders them to follow the white wolves. They agree. Satsuki instructs Yuki to take the children with her and run to the base. The she-wolf tells her to rely on her. Byakuya asks the girl to slow down. Yuki, the other white wolves, and the children rush off. The main character, holding the girls, rides on Byakuya. She admits to herself that she could not have imagined that she would encounter slave traders and kidnappers. Satsuki wonders if the man she encountered a few days ago was one of them. She wonders why there was no one in the cave, but she decides to think about it later. The girl managed to save the children, and that's what matters most. Byakuya has almost reached the base. Suddenly, Satsuki notices that the wolves and children are standing at the barrier. She wonders why they are not coming inside. The main character is met by an alarmed Yuki, who informs her that only she can enter the base. Only then does the girl remember the barrier. She apologizes and tries to figure out what to do. Byakuya asks Satsuki to give a name to Yuki's partner, who is surprised by the wolf's words. The main character asks if he will then become her familiar, and the head of the family answers in the affirmative. He adds that in this case, the entire pack of white wolves will be able to enter the base. The girl gently takes the child from her arms. She approaches Yuki's partner. She pauses for a moment to think. She announces that his name is Snow. He grows up before her eyes and thanks the main character. He snuggles up to Yuki and adds that now he can be with her. Satsuki replies that she is happy for them. Byakuya announces that now the entire pack of white wolves has become the girl's servants. She wonders what to do with the children. The wolf notes that they can enter if the main character gives them permission. However, if any of them do something bad to Satsuki, they will be immediately thrown out. It is still difficult for the girl to get used to the laws of another world. She asks all the children, except Gazu, to introduce themselves. The remaining beastkins are named Theo and Maru. The girls are Catherine Extero and Sally. The main character lists their names and allows them to enter. The children walk forward, stretching out their hands to feel for the barrier. But now they manage to get through. Satsuki and the girls climb back onto Byakuya's back, and the girl encourages the others, telling them that the base is within reach. Night falls. When the group finally reaches the base, the main character sends the children to rest in the house, while she goes to prepare everything they need. Satsuki needs a change of clothes and bedding. She glances at the children and realizes that they could definitely use a bath, since they have just left a dirty cave. The girl considers moving the bath closer to the log cabin. She asks Byakuya to help her with this. He carries out the task in an instant. First, Satsuki bathes the girls. She washes their hair and asks them to immerse themselves in the water up to their shoulders and count to 10. The main character helps them with this task. Then she dries them off with a towel and hands them clean clothes. The happy girls leave the bath, and it's the boys' turn. With shining eyes, they climb into the bath. Washing them is more difficult. As one plays with the shower, another splashes soap around, and the third simply splashes about. Satsuki barely manages to stop Maru, who has decided to swim and is splashing everywhere. Then she interrupts Theo, who is about to eat the foam. Gazu thoughtfully rubs himself with soap. Exhausted and wet, Satsuki is breathing heavily. She looks at the children, who have finally fallen asleep. The girl only has enough strength to apologize to Byakuya, moan that she is terribly tired, and fall onto the wolf's warm side. He notes that she has done a great job. To be continued. Thanks for watching. Write your feedback in the comments. If you like the story, please like and subscribe. See you soon.